2 critical essays, 5 books on tribal language and culture, 7 translations into Odia, including his Soviet Land Nehru Award-winning translation of Tolstoy's Odia Mahabharata. He, along with Sri Manoj Das and Surendra Mohanty, pioneered a new trend in Odia language, fictional writing, in the later half of the 20th century. Virtually all aspects of Orissal landscape, life pattern, culture, and heritage, including those in the tribal heartland, came alive in his magical hands. He was a pathbreaker and themes or codifying the language of the tribal groups and creating grammar in their language. Sri Mohanty was its visiting professor and writer in residence for 2 years at the Department of English, Utkal University, in the late 1970s. In the United States as an adjunct professor. His writings painted a true picture of Odia landscape and culture for the entire world. In San Jose, California, on 20th of August, 1991, an epoch that witnessed a creative pursuit was silenced. However, Gopinath Mohanty's immortal words of eternal optimism, there is jest and taste in life, no death, no sorrow. Pick up a pen and write. And after reading Gopinath Mohanty's Paraja and his depiction of the tribals and the marginalized sections of the society, I realized 2 things. First of all, reading is a conversation, and more or less all books talk. But a good book, like Paraja, listens as well. And secondly, the role of a writer is not just to say what we can all say, but what we are unable to say as well. Now, I humbly request our esteemed guests to come onto the dais as well as stand up for lighting the lamp, as light and brightness have always been equated with positivity. As far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. Path ahead of us and helps us to see forward. Therefore, to start us off on an auspicious note, I request our honorable guest to do the honors of lighting the lamp as a tribute to Goddess Saraswati and grace the occasion. Our chief guest and patron, Honorable Vice Speaker, Padma Vibhushan Shri Sitakanta Mahapatra, Padma Shri Dr. Devi Prasanna Patnaik, eminent professor of this seminar, eminent writer, poet, literary critic, and honored speaker, Professor Hrusikesh Malik, Professor Omkarnath Mohanty, Chairperson, Gopinath Mohanty Foundation Trust, Dr. Sambit Panigrahi, Professor and Head, Department of English, Ravenshaw University. I request you, sir, to please light the lamp.
ज्योति परम ब्रह्म दीप्यं ज्योति जनार्दना दीपो हरतु मे पापं दीप्य ज्योति नमस्तुते शुभं करोति कल्याणं आरोग्यं धनस्पदा शत्रुबुद्धि विनाशाय दीप्यं ज्योति नमस्तुते दीप्यं ज्योति परं ब्रह्म दीप्यं ज्योति जनार्दना दीपो हर दीपं ज्योति नमस्तुते दीपं ज्योति नमस्तुते दीप्यं ज्योति नमस्तुते दीपं ज्योति नमस्तुते.
It's an important part of our culture to express our kind gestures to them who have taken special efforts to make the function a success with their presence. I now request the student volunteers of the department to honor the guests with bouquets as tokens of respect on behalf of the Department of English, Ravensa University, and Gopinath Mohanty Foundation Trust. I now humbly request Professor Dr. Sambit Paningrai, Head of the Department of English, to give the welcome address.
Good afternoon and namaskar to all. It's really an honor and privilege on my part, and I really feel nervous to introduce a galaxy of intellectuals, literatures, scholars, researchers, and whatnot. It's truly a humbling job, and I feel, but at the same time, I'm quite nervous. Anyway, I would like to introduce to you our Honorable Chief Speaker. Our Honorable Chairperson, Professor Devi Prasanna Patnaik. Professor Devi Prasanna Patnaik was born on 14th March 1931. He is a noted Indian professor, linguist, social scientist, and author. He was the founder director of the Central Institute of Indian Languages, Mysore, and former chairman of the Institute of Odia Studies and Research, Bhubaneswar. Professor Patnaik was awarded Padma Shri in 1987 for his contribution to formalize and add Bodo language in the 18th schedule of the Constitution of India. Professor Patnaik played a major role to help Odia language to acquire the status of classical language. Professor Patnaik is the author of many scholarly works, particularly in the field of linguistics, including multilingualism in India, multilingualism and mother tongue education, language policy and program, and many such books. It's really a proud privilege for all of us, a pleasure and an honor to have you in our midst, sir. Now, I'm going to introduce the son of the soil, the Gyanopathy Award winner, Sri Sitakanta Mahapatra ji, the pride of Odisha. And it's really a very, very rare and fortunate moment for all of us that he is in our midst. He has kindly graced the occasion. Dr. Sitakanta Mahapatra was born on 17 September 1937. He is an acclaimed poet, literary critic, and literature in Odisha, as well as in English. He served in the Indian Administrative Service, IAS, from 1961 until he retired in 1995, and he has held important ex officio posts such as the chairperson of National Book Trust. He has published over 15 poetry collections, 5 essay collections, a travelogue, over 30 contemplative works, apart from numerous translations. His poetry collection has been published in several Indian languages. His notable works are Sabdara Akasa, Samudra, Aneka Sarata. Dr. Mahapatra has brought laurels to the state of Odisha by winning many awards and accolades. He was awarded the 1974 Sahitya Academy Award in Odia for his poetry collection Sabdara Akasa. And most importantly, he was awarded with the nation's highest and most prestigious literary award, the Gyanopathy Award, in 1993 for his outstanding contribution to Indian literature. Dr. Mahapatra was also awarded the Padma Bhushan in 2002 and the Padma Vibhushan in 2011. So it's really an honor and pleasure to have you in our midst, sir. Now I'm going to introduce another stalwart in the field of literature, Dr. Hrusikesh Mallik. Dr. Hrusikesh Mallik is an eminent Odia poet, short story writer, and critic. His poetry collection, Dhana Saunta Jia, had won him Odisha Sahitya Academy Award. Some of his poetry collections are Ujuda Khetara Gita, Srestha Kavita, Bocha Bocha Kavita. Some of his scholarly works of criticism include Sriradha O Nira, ଏକ ତୁଳନାତ୍ମକ ଅଧ୍ୟୟନ, ନିସଙ୍ଗତା ମୃତ୍ୟୁ ଓ ଜୀବନ, ଉତ୍ତର ଅଶୀ ବଙ୍ଗଳା ଓ ଓଡ଼ିଆ କବିତା, ଏକ ତୁଳନାତ୍ମକ ଅଧ୍ୟୟନ. He has won the prestigious Sarala Puraskar for his poetry collection, Je Dekhi Nathiba Bharata. Out of over 40 books written by Dr. Mallik, 12 are poetry collections, 2 are short story collections, and 10 are works of literary criticism. Dr. Mallik, who is currently president of Odisha Sahitya Academy, has been awarded several literary awards like Kendra Sahitya Academy Puraskar, Chinta Vachetana Sammana, Tirataranga Puraskar, Jhankara Vishwa Puraskar, Sachi Rautray Kavita Puraskar, and many more. It's our honor and pleasure to have you, sir, in our midst. Now I am going to introduce another literary stalwart, academician of our state, Professor Prafulla Mohanty, a teacher, scholarly writer, literary critic, poet, translator, and whatnot he is. Professor Prafulla Kumar Mohanty has won the prestigious Central Sahitya Academy Award of 2004 from Odisha for his book, Bharatiya Sanskruti or Bhagavad Gita. Professor Mohanty has got at least 14 books to his credit. He has written 3 Odia books of literary criticism, and these books are Bharatiya Sanskruti or Bhagavad Gita, Biraha or Anya Vibhava Mane, Kichi Aks, Kichi Mati. Known playwright Manoranjan Das's famous play, Katha Ghoda, has been translated by Professor Mohanty into English as Wooden Horse. Professor Mohanty is the author of a short story collection titled Sesa Apekya. He is also the author of 3 plays titled Kala Janna, Mala Akasa, Saraga Sannyasi. His English books include Religion, Democracy, and Other Reflections, The Joys of Poetry, and Quiet Flows of Mahanadi. Professor Mohanty has also translated Gangadhar Meher's famous Odia classic, Kichaka Badha, as End of Kichaka, published by Sambalpur University. So it's our pleasure and honor to have you, sir, in our midst. Last but not the least, I'm going to introduce a very talented person whom we adore as an eloquent speaker, a great academician. He is none other than Professor Gopinath Mohanty, the very able son of Sri Gopinath Mohanty. And the chief architect behind this seminar. Professor Gopinath Mohanty is an engineer, scientist, educationist, administrator at one and the same time. He completed his BTech and MTech in metallurgical engineering from IIT Kharagpur, general management diploma from INSTEAD, France, and PhD in materials engineering, excuse me, from University of Karlsruhe, Germany. He has held many important academic and administrative positions, including Professor IIT Kharagpur, Director level Scientist, National Metallurgical Laboratory, Jamshedpur, Director Research and Development, Tata Steel, Vice Chancellor, Biju Patnaik Technical University, Government of Odisha. He has been a Fellow National Academy of Sciences, an elected member of Asia Pacific Academy of Materials, consultant, UNIDO at Vienna, Harare, Chairman, Engineering Group, National Board of Accreditation, and the list is endless. So it's our pleasure and honor to have you, sir, in our midst. Thank you very much. And now, I hand it over to Professor Devi Prasanna Patnaik. He is the chairperson of our seminar.
I now request Professor Gopinath Mohanty to give the introductory address. Please confine it to 15 minutes.
शुभ अपराह्न आजिर ए मनोज्ञ सभार अध्यक्ष तथा आम समस्तंकर वरेण्य पद्मश्री प्रोफेसर देवी प्रसन्न पट्टनायक विशिष्ट भाषाविद एवं आजिर आमर यही सभारे जो मैंने बसचंती सम्मान्य अतिथिगण तांको विषय आप शुणीगले केवल मु कहबी प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर सीताकांत महापात्र केवल ज्ञानपीठ पुरस्कार पाई नथिले सर्वप्रथम ओडिशा से ज्ञानपीठ कमिटीर चेयरमैन 5 वर्ष बेसी थिले बोली एवं सबुठ खुशीर कथा जे तांको परे ओडिया साहित्यरू एबे डॉक्टर प्रतिभा राय मध्य ज्ञानपीठ कमिटीर चेयरमैन अच्छा चेयरपर्सन अच्छा तेणु ओडिशारू 4 जन ज्ञानपीठ पाई सारी ज्ञानपीठ कमिटीर चेयरमैन अच्छा याठू बलिकी आमर आनंदर एवं गर्वर विषय कौन हो पारे तेणु आम समस्ते आज गर्वित प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर सीताकांत महापात्र आम सागर अच्छा आम सागर अच्छा बाकी प्रोफेसर मल्लिक एवं प्रोफेसर महांती उभय विषय आप शुणिले बंधुगण आम समस्ते ये एकाठी होइछे आज जहाँकर 32तम स्वर्गारोहण दिवस गतकाली गला पालन करने को सर्वप्रथमे हृदयर गभीरतम प्रदेश विनम्र प्रणाम सश्रद्ध प्रणाम जनाऊँगी एठी जो माने सम्मान्य प्राध्यापक अध्यापक आचार्य भावुले प्रोफेसर मन केमती कह जाए आपण मन को आचार्य कह आचार्य प्राध्यापक अध्यापक मैंने उपस्थित अच्छा सामान्य रेवेन्सा यूनिवर्सिटी से समस्त को मु स्वागत करुच्ची ट्रस्ट पक्षर एवं रेवेन्सा यूनिवर्सिटी पक्षर तो आज ओडिया साहित्यर प्रवाद पुरुष गोपीनाथ महांती को आम मन पकाऊे। तो सर्वप्रथमे मु कहबी जे आमे ये जो ट्रस्ट पक्षर रेवेन्सा सांगे आमे जो एकाठी एक करने को इच्छा कलु बा चेष्टा कलु कारण कौन। I think at this point I will switch to a bit of English, and in my deliberation, if you find a mix of Odia and English, don't get me wrong, because we are in the midst of an English department, but apart from that, at some point in time, maybe I feel more convenient. So as far as Revenshra is concerned, I must first of all pay my tributes to this great institution. The historian Dr. Nivedita Mohanty says that this building in which we sit, this building actually came into being in 1922. So 100 years have passed, and through its portals, practically the who's who of Odisha they have gone through. So that itself is a great institution. But as far as the college is concerned, which came into being in 1868, it has gone through 155 years. But the English department itself, the postgraduate English department, make no mistake, is 100 years old. 100 years old, and that was completed last year, in 2022. So therefore, our compliments to you, Professor Panigrahi, Sambit Panigrahi, who readily agreed to collaborate with us and take us forward in our journey of Gopinath Mohanty and knowing his work and the man. We are also grateful to the Vice Chancellor. I would have, of course, addressed him had he been here, but in absentia, I have no hesitation in also expressing my gratitude to Professor Naik, Sanjeev Naik, who also readily agreed that the English department and the Gopinath Mohanty Foundation Trust will join hands. As far as Gopinath Mohanty's work is concerned, why is it, I raise the question, why is it are we celebrating this in Revenshra University, that also in the English department? As far as I am concerned, I see three reasons. The reason number one, of course, is very obvious, because Gopinath Mohanty studied in Revenshra University for 6 years. And he graduated, actually did his MA from, in the year 1936 from your department, postgraduate department. And he stood first in the Patna University. So that's reason number one. The reason number two, he started his creative career in Revenshra University. A number of his short stories, which are known to be the very first short stories of Gopinath Mohanty, they started flowing out of his pen right here in Revenshra. Dawn, Otasi, and so on. But more important or equally important is in Revenshra Bhiyan itself. Once again, Dr. Nivedita Mohanty has made a few of these articles by Gopinath Mohanty available. Interestingly, the first one is Critics and Their What. And a BA student writes this. Gopinath Mohanty is a BA student. When students of English literature, men first enter into the library, you can sum up their situation in the following lines. Critics to the right of them, critics to the left of them, critics in front of them, and volleyed and thundered. That is what I experienced, and that is what my friends will confess to be if they but speak. I say, Hamlet's madness was but feigned, cries one gentleman. And so on and so forth. I don't need to read all that. Then the next one is Scattered Light. He talks about the misfortune of Odisha around 1934, and which was once upon a time great. Then the mystic employed. And that mystic employment is about the Odias who are going to Calcutta and Jamshedpur those days in search of work. So a number of his articles are there in Revenshra Bhiyan. And the third and the equally important reason is the students. The reason, I told you there are three reasons why we intended to hold it here. The third reason, and probably the most important reason in my own mind and estimate, is the presence of you all, the students, the dear students. Now, why I want to say that is because it is the students who are the future of this country also, in not a rhetoric, but actually I feel it from the heart of my heart, core of my heart, because when it comes to literature, who but you would actually take this country forward? So therefore, we thought that holding it here might actually inspire you also into writing. Gopinath Mohanty himself was believing he was never insuperable. That kind of arrogance never touched his head. So therefore, who knows, many of you or some of you would also grow to become Gopinath Mohanty's or even greater. A couple of things about Gopinath Mohanty which have been said. People know about his creative literature, the fiction part. And Sitakant Mahapatra is sitting here, who took a very rare interview with Gopinath Mohanty in the year 1986. It appeared in the Indian Literature Today. And if you went through that, very interesting actually. And it is not just the interview part of it, but the number of appointments that Gopinath Mohanty and Sitakant Mahapatra used to have in the moonlit nights or in the open skies and so on would make for very interesting readings. Go through that. And this book is called The Iconic Writer, Gopinath Mohanty. Can you show that book, please, Sambit Babu? Yeah, that's there. Which is written by Sitakant Babu, Dr. Sitakant Mahapatra, and published by Sahitya Academy. It's available in Sahitya Academy. Go through that book. If you go through that book, you would actually get a glimpse of Gopinath Mohanty's creative writings. But what that book perhaps doesn't tell you in details is something about the man. So I will tell you 2 or 3 things about this man himself. As has been said, the most important thing about Gopinath Mohanty, perhaps, if you speak, will be his love for man. His love for man was not love for man confined to the family and so on. Wherever he went, when he passed away in 1991, my dear friend and your former Vice Chancellor, Mr. Devdas Chodrai, said, Gopinath Mohanty was like a wild grass. You throw him on the streets of New York, he will grow. You take him to Koraput, he will also grow. So he had as much love for the Americans when he visited US in 86, 87, and subsequently also in 90, as he used to love also the tribals. But most important is about the tribals when he is in US in 86, 87, and he writes to a friend of his about the tribals. He says, I would now read it out. He writes a letter. Kandha, Paraja, Saura, Godava, Munda, Orang, Bhuyang. ସେମାନେ କୁଣ୍ଢେଇ ପକେଇ ମୁହଁରେ ମୁହଁ ଲଗେଇ ଗେଲ କରୁଥିଲେ। ଆହା ଭଲରେ ଥିବେଟି ସେମାନେ ସେହି ବଣ ପର୍ବତ ଟାଙ୍ଗରା ଉହାଡ଼ରେ। He is remembering them from USA in 1986-87, remembering his Kandh friends. I don't have to tell you that this shows actually his love, true love for the tribals. Yes, of course, that people knew. So when he wrote about, all these books, the tribal research part is all combined together in these 5 volumes. 3 of them are grammar books. I want to tell all the young students here and also the teachers, when he wrote his Kubhikandha Vasa Tattva, so this is a scriptless language. From a scriptless language, if he could collect the inventory of words, sentences and so on, and derive a grammar out of that, that is what today we call computational linguistics. That's also what we call the computational linguistics. But without the help of any computer, you can have the computational linguistics, which is the natural language. So the natural language processing, NLP, or the computational linguistics, he did actually all that in the year 1942-43. Godava Bhasa and the Saura Bhasa, subsequent books. So these 3 books, grammar books. Then the 4th book was actually Kandha Parada Stotra O Sangita. In the Kandha Parada Stotra O Sangita, the Meriya songs are included. Mind you, the Meriya songs are those extremely secretive songs. You can't get those Meriya songs unless you are a tribal yourself. And Gopinath Mohanty was accepted by the tribals as tribals. Amongst the tribals there are totems. Gopinath Mohanty was given the totem Praska, which is the Hanuman tribe. And his wife, my mother, was given the totem Miniaka. By the way, Miniaka is the same totem which Sarbu Samanta had in the Miniaka village. So if I would not have seen it with my own eyes, perhaps I would never have believed in Raigada. When I was a young student in the school, many times, at least 2 or 3 times, I had been with my father and mother on top of the mountain, and the tribals will take both of them, will start dancing with them. And my father will play the flute. This is what Gopinath Mohanty was. But apart from all that, or in addition to all that, this Meria, when he wrote, he went from village to village, from mountain to mountain, in actually cross-checking some of the names. That was Gopinath Mohanty. He always used to tell me and tell everybody also, whoever has talked to him, that I hate sham. This was his word. I hate sham. So he would never believe actually in the kind of the work which will be on the surface. You have to go deep in order to understand him. So this is why we said that Gopinath Mohanty was different from others. When it comes to loving men or people, and he talked about the Kands I told you, and many times in Mysore he will go to Professor Devi Prasanna Patnaik unannounced completely. In IIT Kharagpur he would come to me and move around in a rickshaw, and suddenly at 2 o'clock he will take the rickshaw puller and rickshaw to somebody, one of my colleagues, who he would never know. And he will ask the wife of the professor, feed him something. Now this is what he was. And most of the people that came around him, they all felt that they were liked by Gopinath Mohanty only. So this was actually him. And all I want to say is Verrier Elwin is a venerated name when it comes to anthropology. Gopinath Mohanty's work, when you compare, comparison is not necessary. What is important is, Verrier Elwin, a number of biographies have been written. I liked one by Rustamji, who calls him philanthropologist. Philanthropy and anthropology, if you combine. I have only said, if philanthropologist is actually an epithet which has been given to Verrier Elwin, Gopinath Mohanty very richly deserves that. Has not been given his due when it comes to his work on the tribal languages. And most important, 1942-43, he wrote 5 poems in the Kand language, Kubhi Lokutu Nehi Panabu. And he has given the Odia translations himself. He has written the book under the name Gopi Kubhesur Aichite. The Gopi Kand, the Praska Bangsas Gopi Kand is who has written it. So this is how he was known. At the end of it, I want to say, anything that he has written, everything that he has written is quite unique. But the most important thing is, you have all heard about what I think our compeer was reading. Jibanare swada achi, marana nai, dukkha nai. Now these are the iconic words in Odia literature. But how do you believe that Jibanare swada achi, marana nai, dukkha nai, the man was believing himself? Whatever he has written, every line, he believed in that. I want to read out only 4 lines, which we discovered. I gave it to Sitakant Babu when I came back from US after my father's exit. It was 1st of April. I'm finishing now. Half a minute. I'm finishing now. On the 1st of April, 1991, this is very significant. 1st of April, 1991, he died 4 months after that. In San Jose, on a piece of paper, which he had written down, I had collected it, brought it, and then showed it to Sitakant Babu. It says, today is April Fool's Day, my official birthday, aptly chosen. In 1991, my diary has been left blank, not my mind. Thoughts, visions, perceptions have been coming thick and fast, like buzzing butterflies, but I have lived in utter silence, as I have expressed them all, not opened my mouth, and they have flitted away, gone. And life flows like a river, running into the sea. Perhaps the mouth is not far off, for I can hear indistinct murmuring of the sea. And so be it. Silence, utter silence. It's very difficult to choke my emotion when I read these lines. Why do I say so? 10 days after that, the same person talks to me over telephone and tells me, bring my flute, bring the unfinished work on Mahabharata. As you all know, he did great amount of work on the Mahabharata, and he has inspired a lot of people to get into the research of Mahabharata. So the same person actually asked me, bring my flute, I will play on that. Bring the unfinished work, I will complete that, and so on. And I end by saying, it is not just him. His dedications, every book is unique. I just want to end my talk by the dedication that he has given the dedication that he has written in Amrita Santana. The book has been dedicated to his wife. जे मोर संसारर गरलकु कंठरे धरे दिए अमृत जार विश्वास साहस साधनार ही संभव हुए मोर साहित्य सेही चुली निया पाखे तपस्या निरता सेही मोर स्त्री को उपहार देली. Who will tell this? जे चुली निया पाखे तपस्या निरता स्त्री. So this is how Gopinath Mohanty was, which is why, my dear young friends, we are holding this remembering Gopinath Mohanty here. Thank you very much for accommodating this occasion. Thank you.
The Honorable Vice Chancellor is not here.
So you call the next.
May I now request Professor Hrusikesh Malik to... No.
ଯିବା ଆସିବା ପାଇଁ 2 ମିନିଟ୍ ସାର୍ ଦେବେ. ସମ୍ମାନନୀୟ ସଭାପତି ଏବଂ ମଞ୍ଚାସୀନ ଅତିଥିବୃନ୍ଦ ଏବଂ ମୋର ସାମ୍ନାରେ ଥିବା ସମସ୍ତ ଶ୍ରୋତୃମଣ୍ଡଳୀ, I can speak in English, but I do not feel adequate to say something on Gopinath Mohanty, because all the quotations Omkarnath ji were telling you, putting before you, was in Odia. Because Gopinath Mohanty is very difficult to translate. Even in best translators fail to translate Gopinath Mohanty because he speaks in original native Odia. That's why. And one thing I marked, that you are understanding Odia well than English. When he quoted the quotation in Odia, you clapped loudly. And when he was telling in English, you were remaining silent, because you have held from all the Odia families and from rural backgrounds also. So I will speak in Odia, and if I require, I will use English. ଦୁଇ ଜଣ ବିଶିଷ୍ଟ ଔପନ୍ୟାସିକଙ୍କ ସମ୍ପର୍କରେ ମୁଁ ଏଠି ଉଲ୍ଲେଖ କରିବି ମୋର ବକ୍ତବ୍ୟ ପୂର୍ବରୁ। ସେ ଦୁଇ ଜଣ ଓଡ଼ିଆ ଭାଷାର ଔପନ୍ୟାସିକ ନୁହନ୍ତି। ଜଣେ ହେଉଛନ୍ତି ମାର୍ସେଲ ପ୍ରୁଷ୍ଟ, PROUST, ଆପଣ ଯାହା ପ୍ରୋନାଉନ୍ସିଏସନ୍ କରିପାରିବେ, ତାକୁ ଭାରତୀୟ ଭାଷାରେ ପୃଷ୍ଟ ବୋଲି ପ୍ରୋନାଉନ୍ସିଏସନ୍ କରାହେଉଛି। ମାର୍ସେଲ ପ୍ରୁଷ୍ଟ, ତାଙ୍କର ସମୟ ହେଉଛି 1871 ରୁ 1922। ମୁଁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ମାର୍ସେଲ ପ୍ରୁଷ୍ଟଙ୍କ ସମ୍ପର୍କରେ ପଢ଼ିଲି, ଜଳଜଳକି ଦେଖାଗଲା ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତି ଏବଂ ସେ ଦୁଇ ଜଣଙ୍କର ମୁହଁ ଏକା ଭଳି ଦିଶିଲା। ମାର୍ସେଲ ପ୍ରୁଷ୍ଟ ସମଗ୍ର ପୃଥିବୀକୁ ଯିଏ ପ୍ରଭାବିତ କରିଛନ୍ତି ଉପନ୍ୟାସ ଲେଖି, ଏବଂ ସମାଲୋଚକମାନେ କହିଛନ୍ତି ଅନୁବାଦରେ ମଧ୍ୟ ସେ ଅସାଧାରଣ ଓ ବିସ୍ମୟକର, ଠିକ୍ ଯେମିତି ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତି। ବିକ୍ରମ ଦାସଙ୍କର ମୁଁ ଅନୁବାଦ ପଢ଼ୁଥିଲି, ଗୋଟେ ପେସେଜ ପଢ଼ିକି ମୁଁ ଖୁସି ହେଲି ଯେ ସେ ଅନୁବାଦରେ ମଧ୍ୟ ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କୁ ବିସ୍ମୟକର ଭାବରେ ଉପସ୍ଥାପିତ କରିପାରିଛନ୍ତି। ଏଇ ଯେଉଁ ଔପନ୍ୟାସିକ, ସେ ଔପନ୍ୟାସିକ 1871 ରୁ 1922, ତାଙ୍କର ବିଶେଷତ୍ୱ ହେଉଛି ଯେ ସିଏ ତାଙ୍କର ଗଦ୍ୟରେ ସ୍ୱପ୍ନର ଉପାଦାନ ବହୁତ ଥାଏ, ଡ୍ରିମ୍ ଏଲିମେଣ୍ଟସ୍, ଯେଉଁଟା ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କ ଉପନ୍ୟାସରେ ଅଛି। କୁହାଯାଇଛି, ପୋଲ୍ ଭେଲେରୀ କହିଛନ୍ତି ଗୋଟେ ବଡ଼ କଥା, ଯେ ପୃଷ୍ଟଙ୍କୁ ନ ପଢ଼ିକି ଗୋଟେ ସମୟ ଥିଲା, ପୃଷ୍ଟଙ୍କର ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେକେଣ୍ଡ ଭଲ୍ୟୁମ୍ ବାହାରିଲା, 7ଟା ଭଲ୍ୟୁମ୍ ସେ ତାଙ୍କ ଉପନ୍ୟାସରେ ଲେଖିଛନ୍ତି ଆ ଲା ରେସର୍ଚ୍ଚ ଦୁ ତାଁ ପେର୍ଦୁ। ତାର ଇଂଲିଶ ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସଲେସନ୍ ହେଇଛି ରିମେମ୍ବ୍ରାନ୍ସ ଅଫ୍ ଥିଙ୍ଗସ୍ ପାଷ୍ଟ। ସେକ୍ସପିୟରଙ୍କର ସନେଟ୍ରୁ ଗୋଟେ ଲାଇନ୍ ଅଣା ହେଇକି ଏଇଟା ହେଇଛି। ସେଥିରେ କହିଲେ ଦ୍ୱିତୀୟ ଖଣ୍ଡ ବାହାରି ଯେତେବେଳେ ତୃତୀୟ ଖଣ୍ଡ ବାହାରିଲା ସେତେବେଳେ ସମଗ୍ର ବିଶ୍ୱର ସମାଲୋଚକମାନେ କହିଲେ ଯେ ପୃଷ୍ଠକୁ ନ ପଢ଼ିକି ଉପନ୍ୟାସ ଲେଖାଯାଏ, ଗଦ୍ୟ ଲେଖାଯାଇ ନପାରେ। ଠିକ୍ ସମାନ ଭାବରେ ମୁଁ କହିବି ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କୁ ନ ପଢ଼ିକି ଓଡ଼ିଆ ସାହିତ୍ୟରେ ଗଦ୍ୟ ଲେଖାଯାଇ ନପାରେ। ଆଚ୍ଛା, ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କଥା ପୃଷ୍ଠଙ୍କ ସମ୍ପର୍କରେ କୁହାଯାଇଛି, ସେ ସବୁବେଳେ ବାରମ୍ବାର ଅତୀତକୁ ଫେରୁଥିଲେ, ମେମୋରି ସ୍ମୃତିର ପଛକୁ ଯାଉଥିଲେ, ଆଗକୁ ଆସୁଥିଲେ। ଜଗନ୍ନାଥଙ୍କର ଯେମିତି ପହଣ୍ଡି ହୁଏ, ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କ ଉପନ୍ୟାସରେ ଦେଖିବେ ତାଙ୍କ ଗଦ୍ୟଟା ଆଗକୁ ଆସୁଥିବ, ପଛକୁ ଯାଉଥିବ, ଆଗକୁ ଆସୁଥିବ, ପଛକୁ ଯାଉଥିବ। ପାଠକର ମେମୋରିରେ ମଧ୍ୟ ସେଇଟା ସେମିତି ହେଉଥିବ। ପୃଷ୍ଠଙ୍କର ଠିକ୍ ସେମିତି ହେଉଥିଲା। ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କଥା ହେଉଛି, ଏବଂ ସେଇଟା କୁହାହେଉଛି ଅତୀତକୁ ଫେରିଯିବାଟା ହେଉଛି ଗୋଟେ ଗଦ୍ୟ ଲେଖକଙ୍କ ପକ୍ଷରେ ତା ଭିତରେ ଯେଉଁ ମାଧୁର୍ଯ୍ୟ ଥାଏ, ସେ ପ୍ରତ୍ୟାବର୍ତ୍ତନ ଭିତରେ ସେ ମାଧୁର୍ଯ୍ୟ ସାଧାରଣ ଗଦ୍ୟରେ ନଥାଏ। ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ବଡ଼ କଥା ହେଉଛି ପୃଷ୍ଠଙ୍କର କଣ୍ଟିନ୍ୟୁଟି, ନିରନ୍ତରତା, ଜୀବନର ଯେଉଁ ନିରବଧି ନିରନ୍ତରତା, ଜୀବନର ଯେଉଁ ଧାରାବାହିକତା, ସେଇଟା ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କ ଗଦ୍ୟରେ ଅଛି। ଆଉ କ'ଣ ଅଛି ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କର ଗଦ୍ୟରେ? ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କର ଗଦ୍ୟର ବାକ୍ୟ ଗୁଡ଼ିକ ଛୋଟ ଛୋଟ ହେଇକି ମଧ୍ୟ ବେଶ୍ ଦୀର୍ଘ, ଏବଂ ସେଇ ଯେଉଁ ଦୀର୍ଘ ଠିକ୍ ପୃଷ୍ଠଙ୍କ ସମ୍ପର୍କରେ କୁହାଯାଇଛି ଜଷ୍ଟ ଲାଇକ୍ ହ୍ୟୁମାନ୍ ବିଙ୍ଗସ୍, ମଣିଷ ଯେମିତି ସରିବାକୁ କେବେ ଚାହେଁନି, ସେମିତି ଭାବରେ ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କର ଗଦ୍ୟ ଏବଂ ପୃଷ୍ଠ ଉଭୟଙ୍କ ଗଦ୍ୟ ମୋଟେ ଆରମ୍ଭ ହେଲେ ସରିବାକୁ ମନ କରେନି, ଅନଏଣ୍ଡିଂ ପ୍ରୋସେସ୍ରେ ସେ ଚାଲିଥାଏ। ଏ କଥା ମୁଁ କହିଲି। ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ କଥା କୁହାଯାଇଛି ଯେ ଜଣେ ଲେଖକ ଭିତରେ ବହୁ ଲେଖକ ଥାଆନ୍ତି, କାହିଁକିନା ଗୋଟେ ଲେଖକ ଭିତରୁ ଆପଣମାନେ ଯେତେକ ପାଠକ ଅଛନ୍ତି ସବୁ ପାଠକଙ୍କର ପ୍ରତ୍ୟାଶାକୁ ଗୋଟିଏ ଲେଖକ କେବଳ ତା'ର ରୂପାୟିତ କରେ ତା ଲେଖାରେ। ସୁତରାଂ ଗୋଟିଏ ଲେଖକ ଭିତରେ ବହୁତ ଲେଖକ ଥାଆନ୍ତି ଯେଉଁମାନେ ବହୁତ ପାଠକଙ୍କର ପ୍ରତ୍ୟାଶାକୁ ରେସ୍ପଣ୍ଡ କରନ୍ତି ବା ତାକୁ ସେ ରୂପାୟିତ କରନ୍ତି। ସେଇଟା ପୃଷ୍ଠଙ୍କର ଥିଲା, ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କର ଅଛି। ଆଚ୍ଛା, ଯେତେବେଳେ ତାଙ୍କ ପରେ ଉପନ୍ୟାସଙ୍କ ନାଁ କହିବି, କାରଣ ମୋର ଦେବୀ ସାର୍ଙ୍କୁ ଭୟ ଅଛି 15 ମିନିଟ୍। ଗୋଟେ ହେଉଛି ମିଲନ କୁନ୍ଦେରା, ଏଇ ଗତ ମାସ 11 ତାରିଖରେ ତାଙ୍କର ଦେହାନ୍ତ ହେଲା। ମିଲନ କୁନ୍ଦେରାକୁ ଯେଉଁମାନେ ପଢ଼ିଥିବେ, ମୁଁ ଭାବୁଛି ଇଂଲିଶ ଡିପାର୍ଟମେଣ୍ଟର ପିଲାମାନେ ଏବଂ ଅଧ୍ୟାପକମାନେ ପ୍ରଚୁର ଭାବରେ ମିଲନ କୁନ୍ଦେରାକୁ ପଢ଼ିଥିବେ। ତାଙ୍କ ଭଳି ଜଣେ ପ୍ରଖ୍ୟାତ ଗଦ୍ୟ ଲେଖକ ପୃଥିବୀରେ ବିରଳ। ମିଲନ କୁନ୍ଦେରାଙ୍କ ସାହିତ୍ୟରେ ଦେଖିଲି ଯେ ସେ ଗୋଟେ ବହି ମଧ୍ୟ ଲେଖିଛନ୍ତି, ଆର୍ଟ ଅଫ୍ ନଭେଲ୍ସ, 7ଟା ପ୍ରବନ୍ଧ ସେଥିରେ ଅଛି। ସେଇଟା ତାଙ୍କର ଉପନ୍ୟାସର ବଡ଼ କଥା ହେଉଛି ଫିଲୋସଫିକାଲ ବ୍ରିଲିଆନ୍ସ ଅଫ୍ ଦ ନଭେଲ୍ସ। ଫିଲୋସଫିକାଲ ବ୍ରିଲିଆନ୍ସ ଟର୍ମଟା ଆପଣ ମନେ ରଖନ୍ତୁ। ଗୋଟେ ଦାର୍ଶନିକ ଔଜ୍ୱଲ୍ୟ ସେ ଗଦ୍ୟରେ ଥାଏ। ଗୋପୀନାଥଙ୍କର ଉପନ୍ୟାସରେ ଗୋଟିଏ ବି ବାକ୍ୟ ନାହିଁ, ଗୋଟିଏ ବି ଶବ୍ଦ ନାହିଁ ଯେଉଁଥିରେ ସେହି ପ୍ରକାର ବ୍ରିଲିଆନ୍ସ ନାହିଁ। ଆଉ କ'ଣ ହେଇଛି? ଦ ଟ୍ରୁଲି ଗ୍ରେଟ୍ ନଭେଲିଷ୍ଟସ୍ କମ୍ୟୁନିକେଟ୍ ଦ ଫେଲ୍ଟ ଲାଇଫ୍। ଯିଏ ପ୍ରକୃତରେ ହେଉଛି ଦମଦାର ଉପନ୍ୟାସିକ, ସେ ଭୋଗିଥିବା ଅଭିଜ୍ଞତାକୁ କମ୍ୟୁନିକେଟ୍ କରେ ତା ଉପନ୍ୟାସରେ। ମୁଁ ଭାବୁଛି ବୋଧେ ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କ ଭଳି ଆଉ ଦ୍ୱିତୀୟ ଔପନ୍ୟାସିକ ଓଡ଼ିଆ ଭାଷାରେ ପାଇବା ଭାରି କଷ୍ଟକର ହେବ, ଯିଏ ନିଜେ ଅଙ୍ଗେ ନିଭେଇଥିବା ଅନୁଭୂତିକୁ ସେ ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କ ଭିତରେ ସେୟାର କରିବାକୁ ଆଉ ବାଣ୍ଟିବାକୁ ଚାହିଁଛନ୍ତି। ପ୍ରତ୍ୟେକ ଉପନ୍ୟାସ 25ରୁ ଉର୍ଦ୍ଧ୍ୱ ଉପନ୍ୟାସ ଲେଖିଛନ୍ତି। କେତେକର ଉଦାହରଣ ଓଙ୍କାର ବାବୁ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଦେଲେ। ଏଇ କମର୍ସ ବ୍ଲକରେ ମୁଁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଓଡ଼ିଆ ଭାଷା ସାହିତ୍ୟରେ ଥିଲି ଅଧ୍ୟାପକ, ଏଇଠି ମଧ୍ୟ ଦାନାପାଣି ପଢ଼ଉଥିଲି, ଏଇଠି ମଧ୍ୟ ପରଜା ପଢ଼ଉଥିଲି। ମୁଁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ପରଜା ପଢ଼େଇବାକୁ ଆସେ, ସେ ଦିନଟା ମୋର, ତା ପୂର୍ବ ଦିନଟା ମୋର ଖୁସିରେ କଟେ ଏବଂ ପରଦିନଟା ମଧ୍ୟ ଖୁସିରେ କଟେ। କାରଣ ପରଜା ମୁଁ ପଢ଼ିଥାଏ ଏବଂ ପରଜା ମୁଁ ପଢ଼ଉଥାଏ ମୋ ପିଲାମାନଙ୍କୁ। ସେ ପରଜା ସେ ସମୟ ଟିକେ ଅସୁବିଧା ହୁଏ କ'ଣ, ମୋର ପରଜାରେ ଗୋଟେ ଚାପ୍ଟର ସରିବାକୁ ଟିକେ ଡେରି ଲାଗେ। କାରଣ ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କୁ ଡେଇଁ ଡେଇଁକି ପାହି ଡେଇଁକି ପଢ଼ି ହେବନି, ପ୍ରତ୍ୟେକ ଧାଡ଼ିକି ଭୋଗି ଭୋଗି ଯିବାକୁ ପଡ଼ିବ। ୟୁ ହ୍ୟାଭ୍ ଟୁ ଏକ୍ସପିରିଏନ୍ସ ଏଭ୍ରି ଲାଇନ୍ ଏଭ୍ରି ୱାର୍ଡ଼ ଇନ୍ ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତି's ନଭେଲ୍। ସେଇଟା ହେଉଛି ତାଙ୍କର ବଡ଼ କଥା। ତେଣୁ ଏଇ ଯେଉଁ ଦୁଇ ଜଣଙ୍କ ଉଦାହରଣ ଦେଲି, ଏ ଦୁଇ ଜଣ ଉପନ୍ୟାସୀଙ୍କର ଭିତରେ ବଡ଼ କଥା ହେଉଛି ଗୋଟେ ମିଲାନ କୁନ୍ଦେରାଙ୍କର ଯେଉଁ ଫ୍ଲୁଇଡ଼ିଟି ଫ୍ଲୁଇଡ଼ିଟି ଇନକ୍ରେଡ଼ିବଲ୍ ଫ୍ଲୁଇଡ଼ିଟି, ଖାଲି ଫ୍ଲୁଇଡ଼ିଟି ନୁହେଁ, ଇନକ୍ରେଡ଼ିବଲ୍ ଫ୍ଲୁଇଡ଼ିଟି, ଗୋଟେ ବୋହିଯିବା। ଗୋପୀନାଥଙ୍କ ଉପନ୍ୟାସରେ ଦେଖିବେ ସେ ବୋହି ଯାଉଛନ୍ତି, ଋତୁ ପରେ ଋତୁ ଆସୁଛି, ଘଟଣା ପରେ ଘଟଣା ଘଟୁଛି, ଗୋପୀନାଥ ପୁରା ବହି ବହି ଯାଉଛନ୍ତି ସ୍ରୋତସ୍ୱତୀ ଭଳି। ତାଙ୍କର ଆତ୍ମଜୀବନୀଟା ନାଁ ମଧ୍ୟ ଦେଇଛନ୍ତି ସେ ସ୍ରୋତସ୍ୱତୀ, ଯାହାର ମଝିରେ କୌଣସି ପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣଚ୍ଛେଦ ନାହିଁ, ମଝିରେ କୌଣସି କମା ନାହିଁ, ବହି ଯାଉଛନ୍ତି ଜୀବନ ଭଳି ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତି ତାଙ୍କ ଗଦ୍ୟରେ ବହି ଯାଉଛନ୍ତି। ତେଣୁ ଏ ଦୁଇ ଜଣଙ୍କର ଏଙ୍କର ମିଲାନ କୁନ୍ଦରାଙ୍କର ସମୟ ହେଉଛି 1929ରୁ ଏଇ ତ ମଲେ 2023। ସେ ଯେଉଁଠୁ ସରିଲେ ଇଏ ସେଇଠୁ ଆରମ୍ଭ ହେଲେ। ଏବଂ ଦୁଇ ଜଣ ବିଖ୍ୟାତ ଉପନ୍ୟାସୀଙ୍କ କଥା ମୁଁ କହିଲି କାହିଁକି ନା, ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କୁ ବୁଝିବାକୁ ହେଲେ ଏଇଭଳି କେତେ ଗୁଡ଼ିଏ ବିଶ୍ୱପ୍ରସିଦ୍ଧ ଉପନ୍ୟାସୀଙ୍କୁ ଆମେ ପ୍ରଥମେ ପଢ଼ିବାକୁ ପଡ଼ିବ। ତାଙ୍କ ସହିତ ତୁଳନା କରିକି, ତାଙ୍କ ସହିତ ମିଶାଇକି ଯଦି ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କୁ ପଢ଼ାଯାଏ ସେଇଟା ଇଂଲିଶ ଡିପାର୍ଟମେଣ୍ଟରେ ସମ୍ଭବ ହେବ। କାରଣ ଇଂଲିଶ ଡିପାର୍ଟମେଣ୍ଟରେ କମ୍ପାରେଟିଭ୍ ଷ୍ଟଡ଼ି ପାଇଁ ସୁବିଧା ଅଛି। ଆପଣମାନେ ଅନ୍ୟ ଭାଷାର ଉପନ୍ୟାସକୁ ପଢ଼ିପାରିବେ ଏବଂ ଜଷ୍ଟିସ୍ ଦେଇପାରିବେ ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କୁ, ଯେ କେମିତି ଗୋଟେ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କୁ କିଛି ଭାରତ ବର୍ଷରେ ନୁହେଁ ସମଗ୍ର ପୃଥିବୀରେ ଆମେ କେମିତି ପହଞ୍ଚାଇ ଦେଇପାରିବା। ଇଏ ଗଲା। ତାପରେ ଆସିବା ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କ ପାଖକୁ। ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କର ଯଦି ମାଟିର ମଟାଳରେ ବସିଛନ୍ତି ମୋର ଛାତ୍ରୀ ଆମର ଅଞ୍ଜୁମନ ଆରା, ଯିଏ ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କର ମାଟି ମଟାଳ ଉପରେ ଏମ୍ଫିଲ୍ କରିଛନ୍ତି, ତେଣୁ ହିନ୍ଦୀ ବିଭାଗର ପ୍ରଫେସର ଅଛନ୍ତି। ତେଣୁ ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କର ମାଟି ମଟାଳ ଉପରେ ଯଦି କହିବି କେତେ 15 ମିନିଟ୍ ଯେ ମୋର ଦରକାର ତା କହିହେବନି, କିନ୍ତୁ ସାର୍ ତ ବସିଛନ୍ତି ଛାଟ ଧରିକି ଏବଂ ସେ ଚିଠା ରଖିଛନ୍ତି, ଠିକ୍ 15 ମିନିଟ୍ ବେଳେ ଚିଠା ଦେବେ। ମୁଁ ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କର ଠିକେ ଠିକେ କେତେଟା ଉପନ୍ୟାସ ଉପରେ କହିବି ସ୍ପେଶାଲିଟି କ'ଣ। ପରଜାଟା ତାଙ୍କର ବାହାରିଲା 1945 ମସିହାରେ। ପରଜା ଯେତେବେଳେ ବାହାରିଲା ଆପଣ ଦେଖନ୍ତୁ ସେ ଭାଷାଟାକୁ ଆପଣ କେମିତି ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସଲେଟ୍ କରିବେ। ପରଜା ଯେତେବେଳେ ମାନେ ଜଙ୍ଗଲରେ ଜବରଦସ୍ତ ଚାଷ କରିଛି ବୋଲି ନିର୍ଦ୍ଦୋଷରେ, ଯଦିଓ ସେ କରିନାହିଁ ଅନୁମତି ନେଇ କରିଛି, ତେଣୁ ତାକୁ ଜରିମାନା ହେଲା 80 ଟଙ୍କା। ତାକୁ ଗୋଟିଏ ଦଲାଲ ଆସିକି 50 ଟଙ୍କା ନେଇକି ତାକୁ ଗୋତି ଖଟେଇଲା ରାମବିଶୋଇ ପାଖରେ। ବାପ ପୁଅ 3 ଜଣ ଯାକ ଗୋତି ଗଲେ। ସେତିକିବେଳେ କୁହା ହେଉଛି ସେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଜରିମାନା ଦେଇକି ଆସୁଛି ଶୁକ୍ରଜାନୀଠୁ ଟଙ୍କା ନେଇକି, ସେତେବେଳେ ଗୋପୀବାବୁ ଗୋଟେ ଶବ୍ଦ କହୁଛନ୍ତି, ଶୁକ୍ରଜାନୀର ଘର ଉପରେ ମାଟିଆ ଚିଲ ବସିଲା। ଓଡ଼ିଆ ନହେଲେ ବୁଝିପାରିବେନି। ଆପଣମାନେ ଇଂରାଜୀରେ କେମିତି ଟ୍ରାନ୍ସଲେସନ୍ କରିବେ ସେଇଟା ଗୋଟେ ମୋର ଦକ୍ଷତାର କଥା। ଘର ଉପରେ ମାଟିଆ ଚିଲ ବସିବାଟା ଗୋଟେ ହେଉଛି ଅଶୁଭ କଥା। ଶଙ୍ଖ ଚିଲ ଶୁଭ, ମାଟିଆ ଚିଲ ଅଶୁଭ। ଗୋପୀବାବୁ ଖାଲି ଧାଡ଼ିଏ କହୁଛନ୍ତି ଶଙ୍ଖ ତାଙ୍କ ଘର ଉପରେ ମାଟିଆ ଚିଲ ବସିଲା, ଶୁକ୍ରଜାନୀର ସେଇଠୁ ଆରମ୍ଭ ହେଲା ଅଧପତନ। ଏଇ କଥାଟା କହୁଛନ୍ତି। ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଜାଗାରେ କହୁଛନ୍ତି ଯେତେବେଳେ ବାଗଲା ଜିଲି ଶୁକ୍ରଜାନୀର ଝିଅ ସ୍ଥିର କରିଥିଲା ବାହା ହେବା ପାଇଁ ବାଗଲାକୁ, ଜିଲି ଦେଖୁଛି ତା ଆଖି ଆଗରେ ବାଗଲାକୁ ବାଗଲା କାଜୋଡ଼ି, ବାଗଲା କ'ଣ କରୁଛି ନା କାଜୋଡ଼ିକି ଟେକି ନେଇ ପଳାଉଛି। ଯେଉଁ କାଜୋଡ଼ିକି ଭଲ ପାଉଥିଲା ମାଣ୍ଡିଆ ଜାନି ଶୁକ୍ରଜାନୀର ପୁଅ। ସେତିକିବେଳେ ଗୋପୀବାବୁ କହୁଛନ୍ତି, ଦେଖିଲେ ଜିଲି ଆଖିରେ ଲୁହ। ଗୋପୀବାବୁ କ'ଣ କହୁଛନ୍ତି ଦେଖନ୍ତୁ। ଗୋପୀବାବୁ କହୁଛନ୍ତି ତା ଝିଅକୁ, ତୁ କାନ୍ଦୁଛୁ ମା? ଜିଲି ବାପ ଉପରକୁ ଢଳି ପଡ଼ିଲା। କାଳିଆ ଓଢ଼ଣୀ ଟାଣି ଦେଇ ବାପ ଝିଅର ଦୁଃଖକୁ ରାତି ଘୋଡ଼େଇ ପକାଇଲା। ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କ ଉପନ୍ୟାସରେ ସାଇଲେନ୍ସ ସ୍ପିକ୍ସ, ନୀରବତା ମଧ୍ୟ କଥା କହେ। ସେ ଏପରି ଜଣେ ଶକ୍ତିଶାଳୀ ଉପନ୍ୟାସିକ। ଯେଉଁଠି ସେ ଚୁପ୍ ତାଙ୍କ ଚରିତ୍ର ମାନେ ସେଠି ସବୁଠୁ ଶକ୍ତିଶାଳୀ ମେସେଜ୍, ସବୁ ଶକ୍ତିଶାଳୀ ଭାବରେ ସେ ପାଠକକୁ କମ୍ୟୁନିକେଟ୍ କରନ୍ତି। ତେଣୁ ଏଇଭଳି ଭାବରେ ମୁଁ ଏଠୁ ଉଦାହରଣ ଦେଉନାହିଁ, ବହୁତ କଥା ଡେରି ହେବ। ଆଉ ଉଦାହରଣ ମୁଁ ଆସିବି ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଶିବ ଭାଇ ପାଖକୁ। ଶିବ ଭାଇ ବାହାରିଲା 1955ରେ। ଶିବ ଭାଇ ବିଷୟରେ ବେଶୀ କଥା କହୁନି, ଭୂଦାନ କର୍ମୀମାନଙ୍କର ଭୂଦାନ ଆନ୍ଦୋଳନ ସମ୍ପର୍କରେ ସେ କହିଛନ୍ତି। ତେଣୁ ସେ ବିଷୟରେ ମୋର କିଛି କହିବାର ନାହିଁ। ସମଗ୍ର ଭୂଦାନ ଆନ୍ଦୋଳନ, ସ୍ୱରାଜ ଆନ୍ଦୋଳନ, ଗାନ୍ଧୀବାଦ ସବୁ କଥା ସେଥିରେ କୁହାଯାଇଛି। ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ହେଉଛି ତାଙ୍କର ଉପନ୍ୟାସର ଉଦାହରଣ ଦେବି, ସେଇଟା ହେଉଛି ଯେ ହରିଜନ ଉପନ୍ୟାସ। କଟକରେ ଥିଲାବେଳେ ସେ ହରିଜନ ଉପନ୍ୟାସ ଲେଖିଛନ୍ତି। 4-5 ବର୍ଷ କଟକରେ ଚାକିରି କରୁଥିଲେ। ସେ ହରିଜନ ଉପନ୍ୟାସଟି ହରିଜନ ସାହିର ହାଡ଼ି ସାହିର ଗୋଟେ ଘଟଣାକୁ ନେଇକି ଲେଖା ହେଇଛି ଏବଂ ଗୋଟେ ଗୋଟେ ଅବିନାଶ ବାବୁ ଯିଏ ହେଉଛନ୍ତି ଜଣେ ସମ୍ଭ୍ରାନ୍ତ ପରିବାର ଲୋକ, ତା ସହିତ ଗୋଟେ କେମିତି ହାଡ଼ି ଘର ଝିଅର ସମ୍ପର୍କ ହେଇଛି ସେ ବିଷୟରେ ଲେଖିଛନ୍ତି। ସେ ବିଷୟରେ ଲେଖିଲା ବେଳେ ସେ କହୁଛନ୍ତି ଗୋଟେ ବଡ଼ କଥା ମୁଁ ଦେଖିଲି, ପୁନି ବୋଲି ଯେଉଁ ଝିଅଟି ଅବିନାଶ ବାବୁଙ୍କ ଆଡ଼ୁ ଜନ୍ମ ହେଇଛି, ସେ ହାଡ଼ି ମାର ଠାରୁ ଅବିନାଶ ବାବୁଙ୍କ ଠାରୁ ସେ ତା'ର ଉପଲବ୍ଧିଟା ଗୋପୀ ବାବୁ ଦେଖାଇଛନ୍ତି। ସାରା ଦୁନିଆରେ ସମ୍ପତ୍ତି ବୋଲି ଅଣ୍ଡାଳି ବସିଲେ ମିଳେ ଖାଲି ନିଜ ଦେହ, ତାକୁ ହିଁ ଖର୍ଚ୍ଚ କରି ଚୁଲି ଉପରେ ହାଣ୍ଡିରେ ଥୋଇ ଥୋଇ ମନର ଅଭାବ ଦେହର ଅଭାବ ମେଣ୍ଟାଇବା କାମ, ପିମ୍ପୁଡ଼ି ବଢ଼ି ବଢ଼ି ହାତୀ ହେବ ନାହିଁ। ଆପଣ ଥମ୍ କିଣା ରହିଯିବେ। ଦେହ ହେଉଛି ଗୋଟେ ନଥିବା ଘରର ଝିଅର ଏକମାତ୍ର ସମ୍ବଳ। ଗୋପୀବାବୁ କହୁଛନ୍ତି ସେ ପିମ୍ପୁଡ଼ିଟିଏ ବଢ଼ି ବଢ଼ି ହାତୀ ହେବ ନାହିଁ। ଆସିଗଲାଣି। ତେଣୁ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ମୁଁ ଜଷ୍ଟ ଆରମ୍ଭ କରିବାକୁ ଯାଉଛି, ସାରଙ୍କ ଚିଠା ଆସିଗଲା। ତେଣୁକରି ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ମୁଁ ଆଉ ଖାଲି ଦୁଇ ଧାଡ଼ି କହିବି। ବହୁତ କଥା ଥିଲା କହିବାକୁ, ଆଉ କେତେବେଳେ ଯଦି ସୁବିଧା ମିଳିବ ଇଂଲିଶ ବିଭାଗର ପ୍ରଫେସର ଡାକିବେ ତାହେଲେ ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କ ଉପରେ ମୁଁ କହିବି ଯେ ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କ ଉପରେ ଏତେ ବକ୍ତା ଥିବାରୁ ଏଠି ଅବଶ୍ୟ ଆମେ କହିବା କଦାପି ସମ୍ଭବ ନୁହେଁ। ମହାଶ୍ୱେତା ଦେବୀଙ୍କର ଆଦିବାସୀ ଉପନ୍ୟାସ ସହିତ ମୁଁ ତାକୁ କମ୍ପେୟାର କରି କହିଥାନ୍ତି ଏବଂ ଅନ୍ୟ ଉପନ୍ୟାସିକମାନଙ୍କ ବିଷୟ ସହିତ ତାକୁ କମ୍ପେୟାର କରି କହିଥାନ୍ତି, ସେ ସ୍କୋପ୍ କିଛି ନାହିଁ। ବିଶେଷ ଭାବରେ ମୁଁ ମାଟିର ମଟାଳ ଉପରେ କହିଥାନ୍ତି। ମାଟିର ମଟାଳ ଏବଂ ତାଙ୍କର ଅମୃତର ସନ୍ତାନ ଦୁଇଟା ହେଉଛି ବିଖ୍ୟାତ ଉପନ୍ୟାସ। ଏଇଠି ମୁଁ ଶେଷ କରିବି। ମାଟିର ଅମୃତର ସନ୍ତାନ ଉପନ୍ୟାସରେ ଯାହା କହିଲେ ଓଙ୍କାର ବାବୁ, ସେଥିରେ ଶେଷରେ ଲେଖା ହେଇଛି ଜୀବନରେ ସୁଆଦ ଅଛି, ଜୀବନରେ ମରଣ ନାହିଁ, ଜୀବନରେ ଦୁଃଖ ନାହିଁ। ମହାଶ୍ୱେତା ଦେବୀଙ୍କର ଗୋଟେ ପ୍ରଖ୍ୟାତ ଉପନ୍ୟାସ ଅଛି ଆଦିବାସୀ ଜୀବନ ଉପରେ, ସେଇଟା ହେଉଛି ଅରଣ୍ୟର ଅଧିକାର। ଅରଣ୍ୟର ଅଧିକାର ଉପନ୍ୟାସ ଭିତରେ ସେଇଟା ମୁଁ କୋଟ୍ କରିକି ସାରିବି। ଅରଣ୍ୟର ଅଧିକାର ଉପନ୍ୟାସରେ ସେ କହୁଛନ୍ତି, ମହାଶ୍ୱେତା ଦେବୀଙ୍କର ଉପନ୍ୟାସ ଅରଣ୍ୟର ଅଧିକାରରେ ସେ କହୁଛନ୍ତି ଯେ, ମୁଁ କହୁଛି ସେଇଟା ଜଷ୍ଟ, ସେ ତାଙ୍କର ଯେତେବେଳେ ତାଙ୍କର ଯେଉଁ ହିରୋ ତାଙ୍କର ଆଦିବାସୀ ଚରିତ୍ରକୁ ନେଇ କରିଛନ୍ତି, ଆପଣ ବିର୍ସା ମୁଣ୍ଡାକୁ ନେଇ କରିଛନ୍ତି। ବିର୍ସା ମୁଣ୍ଡା କଲେରା ରୋଗରେ ଯାଇକି ମରିଯାଇଛି ସେଠି, 1901 ମସିହାର କଥା। ସେ ଉପନ୍ୟାସ ଯେତେବେଳେ ସରୁଛି, ସେ ଉପନ୍ୟାସରେ କେବଳ ଏତିକି କହୁଛନ୍ତି, ଉପନ୍ୟାସିକା କେବଳ ଏତିକି କହୁଛନ୍ତି ଯେ ସେଇଟା ପଢ଼ି ଦେଇକି ମୁଁ ସାରିଦେବି, 3 ମିନିଟ୍ ମୋର ଗ୍ରେସ୍ ଅଛି। ସଂଗ୍ରାମ ଫୁରୌନା ପୃଥିବୀତେ, ବଙ୍ଗଳାରେ କୁହାହେଉଛି, ମୁଣ୍ଡାରୀ ଦେଶ, ମାଟି ପାଥର ପାହାଡ଼ ବନ ନଦୀ ଋତୁରୂପ ଋତୁର আগমন, সংগ্রাম ও ফুরৌনা, সংগ্রামের শেষ নাই, শেষ হতে পারে না, পরাজয় সংগ্রাম শেষ হয় না, থেকে যায় কেননা মানুষ থাকে আমরা থাকি। তারপরে লাস্ট ধাড়িটাকে 3 থর কৌଛନ୍ତି মহাଶ୍ୱେତା ଦେବୀ। କ'ଣ সেটা? অরণ্যর ଅଧିକାରର ଶେଷ ଧାଡ଼ିଟା, উলগুলানের শেষ নাই, বিরসার মরণ ନାହିଁ, উলগুলানের শেষ নেই, বিরসার মরণ নেই, উলগুলানের শেষ নাই, বিরসার মরণ নাই। উলগুলানের খুঁজিলি ଇଏ ମୁଣ୍ଡାରୀ ଭାଷାରେ ଉଲଗୁଲାନର ଅର୍ଥ ହେଉଛି ଖୁବ୍ ଜୋର ବିକ୍ଷୋଭ, ପ୍ରବଳ ବିକ୍ଷୋଭ। କହୁଛନ୍ତି ମହାଶ୍ୱେତା ଦେବୀ ପ୍ରବଳ ବିକ୍ଷୋଭ, ଯେଉଁ ଜୋର ବିକ୍ଷୋଭ ହେଉଛି, ଏ ଯେଉଁ ପ୍ରଚଣ୍ଡ ବିକ୍ଷୋଭ, ଏ ପ୍ରଚଣ୍ଡ ବିକ୍ଷୋଭର ଶେଷ ନାହିଁ, ପ୍ରଚଣ୍ଡ ବିକ୍ଷୋଭର ଶେଷ ନାହିଁ କି ବିର୍ସା ମୁଣ୍ଡାର ମୃତ୍ୟୁ ନାହିଁ। 3 ଥର କହିଛନ୍ତି। ତେଣୁ ଗୋପୀବାବୁ ଯେମିତି କହିଛନ୍ତି 3 ଥର କୁହାଯାଇଛି ଅମୃତର ସନ୍ତାନରେ, ଠିକ୍ ମହାଶ୍ୱେତା ଦେବୀ କହିଛନ୍ତି 3 ଥର ତାଙ୍କ ଉପନ୍ୟାସର ଶେଷରେ। ତେଣୁ ବନ୍ଧୁଗଣ, ଆଜି ଏଠି ମୋତେ ଏତିକି କହିବାର ସୁଯୋଗ ମିଳିଥିବାରୁ ଏବଂ ମୋର ବକ୍ତବ୍ୟକୁ କହିପାରିନଥିବାରୁ ଠିକ୍ ଭାବରେ ଆପଣମାନଙ୍କ ନିକଟରେ କ୍ଷମା ମାଗୁଛି। ଅନ୍ୟ ଅବକାଶରେ ମୁଁ କହିବି। ଏତିକି କହି ମୋର ବକ୍ତବ୍ୟ ମୁଁ ଶେଷ କରୁଛି। ଜୟ ହିନ୍ଦ, ବନ୍ଦେ।
ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ମୁଁ ଶ୍ରୀଯୁକ୍ତ ପ୍ରଫୁଲ୍ଲ କୁମାର ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କୁ ଅନୁରୋଧ କରିବି ଯେ ତାଙ୍କ ବାର୍ତ୍ତା ରଖନ୍ତୁ। 15 ମିନିଟ୍ ଭିତରେ ରଖିବାକୁ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କର।
Mr. President, dignitaries on the dais, fellow teachers, and my dear students, what I have just heard so far, with those things you cannot prove that Gopinath Mohanty is one of the greatest writers in the world. In my view, Gopinath Mohanty is one of the all-time great writers in world literature. By calling him a great writer in Indian literature or Odia literature, we do violence to his contribution to mankind. I don't know how people have read Gopinath Mohanty. I have read Gopinath Mohanty as myself, as I am, as a human being. He has created a language which is poetic yet mysterious. He has created a world which is so very palpable yet beyond us. It has a kind of spiritual mysticism around it. I say this because the primary focus of Gopinath Mohanty was on man, not Sarup Santa or Sukrujani or Rabi Chabi or any such person, but on man. Man is such a creature that is always circumscribed. The first ring around him is nature, and nature which leads to a kind of culture. The second ring around him is that of civilization and the new dynamic of civilization and the culture which springs from it. And the third dimension is the unseen, unknown, beyond. Call it God or a kind of spiritual morality that oversees human reality in the heart of nature. So this was the primary focus of Gopinath Mohanty. And he has given us three contexts of man in all his works. One is the tribal context, the second one is the urban context, and the third one is the existential context. In the tribal context, we have three novels. I am referring only to the important novels. Dadi Buddha, Paraja, and Amrutar Santan. And when you come to the urban context, I will place two novels there. One is Dana Pani, and the other one is Mati Motala, not Matiro Motala, Mati Motala. And in the existential context, we have one novel, Loyo Beloyo, which I consider to be the masterpiece of Gopinath Mohanty, although his reputation rests on Paraja, Amrutar Santan, Mati Motala. But as far as I'm concerned, Loyo Beloyo is his greatest work. And let me start with the tribal context first. I can't take all the three novels because there is no time. I will focus on Paraja. Now in Paraja, you have an ethnic group in the midst of nature. And if you take the words of Sukrujani, he believes that there is Dharma and Dartani, the sky and the earth, for the original parents, maybe God. And Dharma Dartani have created this world for human enjoyment. Students of English literature perhaps will recall the laws of ecclesiastical polity which impacted the pre-Elizabethan and the early Elizabethan mystic. The earth is created for man's enjoyment. This earth is the display disc of human prowess. But man is always surrounded by three things in the human condition. One is hunger, the other one is sickness, and the third one is war. Birth and death are the given. Now man has to fight. He fights the animals hostile to him. He fights the darker spirits of the environment, and also he fights within himself. He has his inner conflicts. Man cannot cease from mental fight. That's what your William Blake said long time ago. Now what I am trying to suggest is that when you have this kind of attitude, which is a kind of cultural inheritance for Sukrajani, that this world is created for us, created for man. Jibanare maujo achi. The word may be translated as maujo may be fun, but fun is not adequate enough to explain the meaning of the word maujo. A prithvi sundar, the langar dangar jo jinsa achi, the mountainous territory, the mountains, the waterfalls, the forest trees, the flowers, all these are so very beautiful. This earth is beautiful. Nature is beautiful. Life is sweet. And man has to enjoy. That's why he dances, drinks. There are umpteen number of festivals there. He could never imagine that there will be another order which will impede his natural flow of life. So he cuts the forest trees, not because the forest trees have been banned by the colonial orders, colonial system at that time, because it was written in 1945. But because he wanted to clear a larger area to grow more food, to overcome and conquer his hunger. So there for the first time he comes into a kind of conflict. What is that conflict? The culture which he had inherited now clashes with the civilization which is imposed. So the forest guard arrests him. And thereafter, he finds his sons. They are preparing country liquor, which is illegal. So he had to borrow money. I'm not going into those details. Those of you who are familiar with the outline of Paraja would definitely agree with me that his sense of innocence with which he tried to live his life, and that innocence which he had inherited from that Dadi Buddha days, although Dadi Buddha belongs to a different generation, but Dadi Buddha seems to be the primordial man, the primordial deity, and that inheritance suddenly clashes with new values of an imposed system, and he suffers. And I will say that if you compare Fakir Mohan Senapati's Chaman Atagunta with Paraja, you will see the difference. The difference will be obvious. Chaman Atagunta has a temple, and the victims, that is Bhagya and Sarya, are cheated by the temple. Chaman Atagunta has a legal system, a law court, and Bhagya and Sarya are both cheated there, Ramchandra Mangaraj is also cheated there, and the moral universe around does not allow anything to succeed, even goodness. The only good woman, the only good person in Samana Archagunta is Ramchandra Mangaraj's wife. But that goodness or her goodness has no impact on the world of evil. Similarly here, when you come to Paraja, he is cheated by his Dharmu and Dartani when he is in difficulty. His inherited culture doesn't stand by him. He cannot move ahead in life. And there is a law court also. The legal system also cheats him. The Sahukar cheats him, absorbs his entire family. His sons and he himself, they simply work under a contractor. And the daughters, Billi Jilli, well, they are also absorbed by the Sahukar. That is, he loses all his inheritance and all the manhood with which he wanted to move ahead in life. And this is Paraja for me. I will just make a passing reference to Amritar Santal. Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Time is the greatest imposition on me. Thank you for having invited me. Thank you.
May I now request the Chief Speaker, Dr. Sitakant Mahapatra, to present his speech.
मंचासीन अतिथिवृंद रेवेन्सा इंग्रेजी विभागर आदरर छात्र छात्री वृंद एवं समवेत सज्जन मंडली गोपीनाथ महांती विषय अल्परे कहवा मो पक्षरे किसी संभव नुह ये गोपीनाथ महांती को प्रथम मु जानिली 1961 मसीह एवं शेष से जे 91 मसीह गले चली से समय 61 मसीह मत अमृतर संतान उपहार मिलता से देखते से लिखिते आदरर सीताकांत महापात्र को शुभ विवाह उपलक्षे सेटा थिला 61 मसीह 90 मसीह से गले ज्वाई पाखक सान होजे अमेरिका को गला बेले दिल्ली बाट जावाक तो पड़ो दिल्ली रहणी बेले से दिन राति कटिले मो पाखे तापर दिन सकाळ खूब जल्दी से एयरपोर्ट को जावाक पड़ता गले से राति खाई सारी बसिले 1990 कथा कहूँ मुझे जो सेतबले जो दुईतल माने ऊपर महलारे थी ସେଟା ଖାଇସାରି ବସିଲେ ଛାତ ଉପରେ କହିଲେ ସୀତାକାନ୍ତ ଏଇଠି ତୁମର ସପ୍ତପର୍ଣ୍ଣୀ ଗଛ ଅଛି କି? ମୁଁ କହିଲି ମାମୁଁ ସେତେବେଳେ ତ ମାମୁଁ କହିଥିଲି କାହିଁକିନା ଔପନ୍ୟାସିକ ଗୋପୀନାଥକୁ ଗୋପ ମାମୁଁ କହିବାର ଅବକାଶ ମିଳିଲା 61ରେ, କାରଣ ତାଙ୍କ ଭାଣିଜୀକି ମୁଁ ବିବାହ କଲି। ସେଥିପାଇଁ ଔପନ୍ୟାସିକ ଗୋପନାଥ ହେଇଗଲେ ଗୋପ ମାମୁଁ। ସେଇ ହିସାବରେ ସେତେବେଳେ କହିଲେ, ତାଙ୍କୁ ଛାଡ଼ି ଦେଇ ଆସିଲି। ତାଙ୍କୁ ଏୟାରପୋର୍ଟରେ ଗଲେ, ତାଙ୍କ ସହିତ ମଧ୍ୟ ଓଙ୍କାରନାଥ ଯାଇଥିଲେ। ସେ ଗଲେ ସେଟା ଶେଷ ଥର ପାଇଁ ଦେଖାଥିଲା, କାହିଁକିନା ତାପରେ ସେ ସାନହୋଜରେ ରହିଲେ, ସେଇଠି ଚାଲିଗଲେ। ତେଣୁ ତାଙ୍କ ବିଷୟରେ କହିବା ବହୁତ କିଛି ଅଛି, ସେ କଥା କହିବିନି। ଯେଉଁଠି ବହିଟି ଲେଖିଛି ଓଙ୍କାର ବାବୁ ଦେଖେଇଲେ, ରିଚିଂ ଦି ଅଦର ସୋ ଦି ଆଇକନିକ୍ ନୋଭେଲିଷ୍ଟ ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତି, ବହିଟି ମୁଁ ଲେଖିଥିଲି ସେତେବେଳେ। କେବଳ ଏବେ ମନେ ପଡ଼ୁଛି 61ରୁ 91, ଯେ 91ରେ ସେ ଗଲେ ଚାଲି। ସେ ବିଷୟରେ କେତେ କଥା ଅଛି। ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତି ଯେତିକ ଲେଖିଛନ୍ତି ଉପନ୍ୟାସ, କ୍ଷୁଦ୍ରଗଳ୍ପ, କେବଳ ଗୋଟିଏ ମଧ୍ୟ ନାଟକ ଲେଖିଥିଲେ ମହାପୁରୁଷ, ଗୋଟିଏ କବିତା ବହି ବି ଯୁଦ୍ଧ, ସେ କଥା ବେଶୀ କେହି ଜାଣିନାହାନ୍ତି, ସେ କଥା ପଛରେ ରଖ। କିନ୍ତୁ ତାଙ୍କର ଲେଖା ବିଷୟରେ ମୁଁ କ'ଣ କହିବି। ତାଙ୍କର ଲେଖାର କ୍ଷୁଦ୍ରଗଳ୍ପ ନେଇ ଗୋଟେ ସରସଜ୍ଜା ଓ ଅନ୍ୟାନ୍ୟ କବିତା, ଅନ୍ୟାନ୍ୟ ଗଳ୍ପ, ବେଡ୍ ଅଫ୍ ଆରୋଜ୍ ଆଣ୍ଡ ସାହିତ୍ୟ ଏକାଡେମୀ ସେଟା ଛାପିଲା। ବେଡ୍ ଅଫ୍ ଆରୋଜ୍ ସେଠି ବହୁତ ସଂସ୍କରଣ ହେଇସାରିଲାଣି। ସାହିତ୍ୟ କେନ୍ଦ୍ର ସାହିତ୍ୟ ଏକାଡେମୀ ଛାପିଥିଲା ବେଡ୍ ଅଫ୍ ଆରୋଜ୍ ସରସଜ୍ଜା। ତାପରେ ତ ଆଇକନିକ୍ ନୋଭେଲିଷ୍ଟ ଲେଖିଥିଲେ, ସେ କଥା କହିବା ନିଷ୍ପ୍ରୟୋଜନ। ଏଠି କେବଳ କହିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛି, ତାଙ୍କର ସେ ପତ୍ରକାର ହିସାବରେ ଭଲ ଭଲ ଚିଠି କେତେ ଲେଖିଥିଲେ। ଚିଠି ତାଙ୍କର ଯେତେ ଥିଲା ସବୁତକ ସଂକଳନ ହେଇ ଅଧ୍ୟାପକ ବିଶ୍ୱରଞ୍ଜନ ସେଠି କରିଛନ୍ତି। ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କ ଚିଠି ହୃଦୟରୁ ହୃଦୟକୁ, ତାର ଟାଇଟଲ୍ ଦେଇଛନ୍ତି ହୃଦୟରୁ ହୃଦୟକୁ। ସେଥିରେ ସବୁ କଥା, ସବୁ ଚିଠି ଅଛି। ଓଙ୍କାରନାଥଙ୍କ ପାଖକୁ 5ଟି ଚିଠି ଅଛି ମଧ୍ୟ, ମୋ ପାଖକୁ 9ଟି ଚିଠି ଅଛି। ସେଇ 9ଟି ଚିଠିରୁ କିଛି ପୋର୍ସନ୍ ଗୋଟିଏ 2ଟି ଚିଠିରେ, ସେ ଗୋଟିଏ ଚିଠି ପଢ଼ିବି, ସେଥିରେ ତାଙ୍କ ନିଜ ବିଷୟରେ କିଛି କହିଥିଲେ। ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଚିଠି ଆଧୁନିକ କବିତା ବିଷୟରେ ସେ କହିଥିଲେ। ଏଇ 2ଟି ଚିଠି ପଢ଼ିକରି ଆପଣ ଶୁଣିବେ କିଛି ପରିମାଣ, କାହିଁକିନା ତାଙ୍କ ନିଜ ବିଷୟରେ ତାଙ୍କ ଅଧିକା କହିବା କଥା ନାହିଁ। ଆଉ ତ ମୁଁ ଯାହା କରିସାରିଛି ଯେ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ କହୁଛି, ବେଡ୍ ଅଫ୍ ଆରୋଜ୍ ଏବଂ ତାଙ୍କର କ୍ଷୁଦ୍ରଗଳ୍ପ ବହୁତ ଛପା ହେଇନଥିଲା, ହାତ ଲେଖାରେ ପାଣ୍ଡୁଲିପି ଆକାରରେ ଥିଲା ଏବଂ ମ୍ୟାଗାଜିନ୍ରେ ଛପା ହେଇଥିଲା, କିନ୍ତୁ ସଂକଳନ ହେଇନଥିଲା। ସେ ସବୁକୁ ନେଇ ଯୋଡ଼ିଏ ଗଳ୍ପ ସଂକଳନ ମୁଁ ସମ୍ପାଦନା କରିଥିଲି। ଗୋଟିଏ ନାଁ ବାଟ ବନ୍ଦ ଓ ଅନ୍ୟାନ୍ୟ ଗଳ୍ପ, ଦ୍ୱିତୀୟଟି ହେଉଛି ସପଙ୍ଗଡ଼ା। ସପଙ୍ଗଡ଼ା ଗୋଟିଏ ତାଙ୍କର ଆଦିବାସୀ ଦେବତା, ସପଙ୍ଗଡ଼ା ଓ ଅନ୍ୟାନ୍ୟ ଗଳ୍ପ। ଏଇ 2ଟି ଗଳ୍ପ ସଂକଳନ ବି ମୁଁ ଏଡ଼ିଟ୍ କରିଥିଲି। ସେ ଗଳ୍ପ ସଂକଳନ ଆପଣମାନେ ପଢ଼ିନଥିଲେ, ପଢ଼ିବି। ଯଦି ଏଠି ବହୁତ ଛାତ୍ରଛାତ୍ରୀ ଅଛନ୍ତି, ସାହିତ୍ୟ ଛାତ୍ରୀ, ଇଂରେଜୀ ଛାତ୍ରଛାତ୍ରୀ, ସେମାନେ ଚିଠି କଥା, ସେ ଚିଠିରୁ ଯୋଡ଼ିଏ କିଛି ପରିମାଣରେ ତାଙ୍କ ପାଖ ହୋଇଯାଇଥିଲା। ସେତେବେଳେ ତ 58 ବର୍ଷରେ ରିଟାୟାର କରିଥିଲେ, 60 ହେଇନଥିଲା। ସେଥିରେ କ'ଣ କରିବେ, ସେତେବେଳେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ବହୁତ କଥା କହିଥିଲେ। किए किए सब कही मो मन भितर मुझे चिठी पढ़ुची जे चिठी मत देते से गोटे चिठी तृतीय नंबर चिठी मु पढ़ुची चिठी भाषा मो मन भितर केते नुआ नुआ मूड आसी चलीगला ओइछा मेघ तोफान नहीं सते जमी सम्मुखे शांतिर फराबार काली चाखुली नारद का प्रेम दर्शन गोड़ो गोड़ो दाढ़ता भक्ति पुराण और चाटशाली पाठशाला जाइपारे ए मासरे कंध देश को जीवी बोली भाभी भाविली ठीक है ना भल लगे ना मत करने चाहूँगी किसी लोग चाहूँगी मत गोटे कहले गोटे प्रेस कर आउ जड़े कहले गोटे हलर पका महताब कहले मु ग्यारंटी लिखिदेची यू विल गेट ए मोस्ट यूजफुल अपॉइंटमेंट खोसला कहले तुम्हें डीएवी ट्रस्ट स्टाफर जड़े नियुक्त हम मनमोहन टुडू कहले आपण को एक्सटेंशन दवा को प्रस्ताव मु इनिशिएट करी तेबे मोठी तो से लिखुंट तेबे मोठी तो टेप रेकर्ड नहीं मु अपेक्षा कली काले दले कहे आपण ये फटा डंगा मरामती करी तार मंगल हुंतु मु सते कि नेसेंट हाइड्रोजन मॉलिक्यूल सबुथिरे कंबाइंड करवा मोर प्रवणता कौन मो द्वारा हो पार इज रिफ्लेक्टिंग ऑन हिमसेल्फ कौन मो द्वारा हो पार ता भविष्य कहब परम परिव्राजक अर्चनाचार्य भविष्य वक्ता बाबाजी महाप्रभु ना कलिंगर महामंत्री ना चोकड़ व्यवसायी ना मजदूर ना इनवैलिड भविष्य केवल कह मुझे विषय किसी कहीपर केवल एतिक जानी भितर मुक्तिर कुहाट कहीं से रिटायर कर मुंड पर सीलिंग ना सामने केते जन्मर अचिंडा समुद्र निजर लंबा चौड़ा छविटी आंकी लिखिं तापर आ गोटे चिठी इम्पोर्टाट कथा मु भावुची मोपाई सेठी लिखी गणनाथ दासन आलोचना गणनाथ दासन घरे बहुत बागर प्रकार प्रकार भेटाभेटी गणनाथ दास घरे पूर्वदिन माछ और चुंगुड़ी शुखुआ गंध आसला विभूति बाबू को साहित्यिक विभूति त्रिपाठी मो सांगरे आलोचन मत हेले विभूति बाबू कौ कौ आधुनिक कविता को गाली देले नीरव सेकेंड विभूति बाबूंकर से विनोद बाबू सी कहले आधुनिक कविता कौन हो सब किसी होनी आपण गोपीनाथ कहते मु कहली आपण साहित्य बुझती नहीं पढ़ा को बुझा को समय भी नहीं घोर तर्क चला टिके गलू पचारे वर्षे तले मोर से गप आपण को केमिति लागला मु कहली कहला बेले आपण जेते प्राणवंत करी कहितिले लेखिला बेले प्राण ही उड़ीगला आपण हुशियार हेले उचित अनुचित भाविकी लाभ क्षति कली कली लेखिले तेणु जहाँ बाहर से सुखिला काठ से कहले मोर सेटा दोष केमिति भल हम मु कहली आपण जीवन रे केबे शला बोली कही नांती से कहले ना आपण जीवन रे मु कहीनी से कहले शला मो पार्टी बाहर नहीं मु कहली सेइथिपाई आपण आधुनिक कविता बुझी पारनांती आधुनिक कवितार स्पष्टवादिता अकपटता ପ୍ରାଣର ଆବେଗ ଓ ତାତି ଓ ତା'ର ଜୀବନ ଏସବୁ ବୁଝି ପାରୁନାହାନ୍ତି। ଆପଣ ଶଳା ଶବ୍ଦ ଜପ କରନ୍ତୁ, ସେ ଶଳା ଶବ୍ଦରେ ଅନୁପ୍ରାଣିତ ହେଲେ। ସେ ଶଳା ଶବ୍ଦରେ ଅନୁପ୍ରାଣିତ ହେଲେ। ମୁଁ କହିଲି ଏଥର ଆପଣ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କରନ୍ତୁ ରମାକାନ୍ତ ସୀତାକାନ୍ତର କବିତାର ଉତ୍କର୍ଷ ବୁଝିପାରିବେ, ଆଧୁନିକ କବିତା ବୁଝିପାରିବେ। ସେ କନଭିନ୍ସ ହେଲେ, ମୁଁ ଗାଡ଼ିକୁ ଆସିଲି। ଇଏ ଦ୍ୱିତୀୟ କଥା। ଏତିକି କହିବି। ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କ ବିଷୟରେ ବେଶୀ କିଛି କହିବାର ଆବଶ୍ୟକତା ନାହିଁ। ଭଲ କଥା ହେବ ଯଦି ପିଲାମାନେ କିଛି ପଢ଼ିବେ, ଏତେ ତାଙ୍କ ବିଷୟରେ କିଛି ଜାଣିବେ। କାହିଁକିନା ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କ ସାହିତ୍ୟ କୃତି ମୁଁ ଆଗରୁ ଲେଖିଛି। ସେ ବିଷୟରେ ଫକୀରମୋହନଙ୍କ ପରେ ଆମର ଓଡ଼ିଆ ସାହିତ୍ୟର ଗଳ୍ପ ଉପନ୍ୟାସ କ୍ଷେତ୍ରରେ ସେ ଅଦ୍ୱିତୀୟ ବ୍ୟକ୍ତି। ସେ ଅଦ୍ୱିତୀୟ ବ୍ୟକ୍ତି କେବଳ ଭାରତବର୍ଷରେ, କେବଳ ଓଡ଼ିଶାରେ ନୁହଁ, ଭାରତବର୍ଷର ଅନ୍ୟତମ ବ୍ୟକ୍ତି। ତାଙ୍କୁ ତୁଳନା କରାଯାଇପାରେ କେବଳ ଲିଓ ଟଲଷ୍ଟୟଙ୍କ ସହିତ କିମ୍ବା ଡଷ୍ଟୋଭସ୍କି ସହିତ। ଏକଥା ବି ମୁଁ ଅନ୍ୟତ୍ର ଲେଖିଛି। ସେ ଏତେ ବଡ଼ ମଣିଷ। କିନ୍ତୁ ଦ୍ୱିତୀୟ କଥା, ତାଙ୍କୁ ବେଶୀ ଜାଣିଲା ପରେ ମୁଁ ଅନକନଭିନ୍ସଡ ହେଲି। ମନେ ହେଲା ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କ ସାହିତ୍ୟ କୃତି ତ ସବୁ ବଡ଼, ସବୁ ସାହିତ୍ୟ କୃତି ଖୁବ୍ ବଡ଼। କିନ୍ତୁ ସାହିତ୍ୟ କୃତି ଅପେକ୍ଷା ଆଉ ବଡ଼ ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତି ମଣିଷ। ସେ ମଣିଷକୁ ଚିହ୍ନିବାର ସବୁଠୁ ବଡ଼। ସେଥିପାଇଁ ମୁଁ ଆରମ୍ଭରୁ କହିଥିଲି ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିକି ଚିହ୍ନିବାର ବୟସ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କର ଆସିଲାଣି। ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କୁ ପଢ଼ନ୍ତୁ, କିଛି ବୁଝନ୍ତୁ, ଭଲ ଲାଗିବ। ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ।
ସଭାରେ ଉପସ୍ଥିତ ସମସ୍ତ ଜ୍ୟେଷ୍ଠ, ଶ୍ରେଷ୍ଠ, ବରିଷ୍ଠ, କନିଷ୍ଠ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ମୋର ପ୍ରଣାମ, ନମସ୍କାର, ଜୁହାର। ପ୍ରଥମେ ମୁଁ ରେଭେନ୍ସା ୟୁନିଭର୍ସିଟିର ଇଂରାଜୀ ବିଭାଗକୁ ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ ଦେବି ଯେ ସେମାନେ ଏହି ପ୍ରକାର ଗୋଟିଏ ଉତ୍ସବର ବ୍ୟବସ୍ଥା କରିଛନ୍ତି। এইଥିପାଇଁ ବ୍ୟବସ୍ଥା ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ ବିଶେଷ କରି ଯେ ଆଜିକାଲି ଇଂରାଜୀ ପିଲାଏ ରାଜ୍ୟଭାଷା ପଢ଼ୁନାହାନ୍ତି, ଆଉ ଓଡ଼ିଆ ପିଲାଏ ଇଂରାଜୀ ବି ପଢ଼ୁନାହାନ୍ତି। ଆମେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ପାଠ ପଢ଼ୁଥିଲୁ ସେତେବେଳେ ଓଡ଼ିଆ ସିଲାବସ୍ରେ ସଂସ୍କୃତ, ପାଲି, ପ୍ରାକୃତ ଥିଲା। ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ସବୁ ଉଠିଗଲାଣି। ସ୍ପେଶାଲାଇଜେସନ୍ ନାଁରେ ଆମେ କ୍ରମେ ଆମ ପାଠ୍ୟକ୍ରମକୁ ସଙ୍କୁଚିତ କରିଦେଉଛୁ। ତେଣୁ ସେଇ ଦୃଷ୍ଟିରୁ ମୁଁ ଇଂରାଜୀ ବିଭାଗକୁ ସ୍ୱତନ୍ତ୍ର ଭାବରେ ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ ଦେବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛି ଏବଂ ଏଠିକାର ଯିଏ ଭାଇସ୍ ଚାନ୍ସେଲର ତାଙ୍କୁ ମଧ୍ୟ ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ ଜଣାଉଛି। ସେ ଉପସ୍ଥିତ ନାହାନ୍ତି, ଅନୁପସ୍ଥିତି ସତ୍ତ୍ୱେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଧନ୍ୟବାଦ ଜଣାଉଛି। ଯେହେତୁ ଇଂରାଜୀ ଡିପାର୍ଟମେଣ୍ଟରେ କହୁଛି, ମୁଁ ଇଂରାଜୀରେ ଅଳ୍ପ କିଛି କହିବି, ଓଡ଼ିଆରେ କିଛି କହିବି। ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତି ଇଜ୍ କନସର୍ନ for the suppressed, depressed, deprived and the downtrodden, and its expression in a language which brings about a synthesis between the tribal languages and the local Odia understood by all concerned. He was the first linguist of Odisha who did field work in tribal communities and constructed grammars in three tribal languages from oral data. He has to his credit 25 novels, more than 200 short stories, several biographies, including an autobiography in 3 parts, poetry collections, essay collections, travelogues, translations, short story collections, tribal ritual song collections, and many other journals. This should have brought to him the Bhasha Ratna Award by literary institution, not Sahitya Ratna suggested by some critics. It is not at all surprising that today Indian literary criticism, as E.V. Ramakrishnan says, is a hybridized house. Literatures are squeezed between regions and languages and seldom go across regional boundaries. Namwar Singh Hindi, MP Sankurni Nayar Malayalam, Kamala Devi Tamil, Gopinath Mohanty Odia have not been translated into other Indian languages. Some of them have never been translated into English. After the advent of imperialism in India, there has been a break between tradition and modernity. No single modern text has been attempted to be critically analyzed using the ancient literary critical mora. Since we developed an inferiority complex towards our own language and culture, we learned to see ourselves and the world through the Western spectacles. Gopinath Mohanty is a reminder to look at ourselves inwards. ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କ ଶୈଳୀ ବିଷୟରେ ଓଡ଼ିଆରେ ଗୋଟିଏ ଥିସିସ୍ PhD ଥିସିସ୍ ହେଇଥିବାର ମୁଁ ଜାଣିଛି, ଆଉ କେହି ଶୈଳୀ ବିଷୟରେ କରିଥିବାର ମୁଁ ଜାଣିନି। ସେ ହେଉଛି ତାଙ୍କର ଶୈଳୀଗତ ଅଧ୍ୟୟନ ବିଷୟରେ ଗବେଷକ ଅଧ୍ୟାପକ ବିଦ୍ୟାଧର ରାଉତଙ୍କ ଆକଳନ ଦେଖିଲେ ସ୍ପଷ୍ଟ ହେବ ଯେ ବିଷୟ ଦୃଷ୍ଟିକୋଣରୁ ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କର ସାହିତ୍ୟ ଯେତେ ଶକ୍ତିଶାଳୀ, ଶୈଳୀ ଦୃଷ୍ଟି ତାଙ୍କର ପ୍ରତ୍ୟେକ ସାହିତ୍ୟ ସୃଷ୍ଟି ସେହିପରି ବନଛୁଆ। ଆପଣ ଉପନ୍ୟାସ ବିଷୟରେ ଗୋପୀନାଥ କହିଛନ୍ତି, ଇଟ୍ ଇଜ୍ ଭେରି ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାଣ୍ଟ। ଉପନ୍ୟାସର ଉଦ୍ଦେଶ୍ୟ ହେଉଛି ଯେ ଲୋକେ ତାକୁ ଆଦରରେ ଆଗ୍ରହରେ ପଢ଼ିବେ। ପଢ଼ିବା କେଣି ସତେ ଯେମିତି ସେ ପଢ଼ାଳିର ମନକୁ ଜାବୁଡ଼ି ଧରିବ, ଜମା ଛାଡ଼ିବ ନାହିଁ। ପଢ଼ାଳି ଯେତେ ପଢ଼ୁଥିବ ତାକୁ ସେତେ ଭଲ ଲାଗୁଥିବ, ସେ ଆହୁରି ପଢ଼ିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଥିବ। ଉପନ୍ୟାସ ଯଦି ଏପରି ନ ହୁଏ, ତେବେ ସେଥିରେ ଯେତେ ଜ୍ଞାନ, ଯେତେ ବିଦ୍ୟା, ଯେତେ ବିଚକ୍ଷଣତା ଥାଉ ପଛକେ ତାକୁ ପଢ଼ାଳି ମୁହଁ ବଙ୍କେଇବ, ତା ମୁଣ୍ଡ ବଥେଇବ, ସେ ଆଉ ତାକୁ ପଢ଼ିବ ନାହିଁ। ଏହି କଳା ଚେତନା ଜୀବନ୍ତ ଓ ସ୍ୱାଭାବିକ ବୋଲି ଅନୁଭୂତ ହୁଏ। ଉପନ୍ୟାସର ପ୍ରତ୍ୟେକ ବର୍ଣ୍ଣିତ ବିଷୟ, ଚରିତ୍ର, ବସ୍ତୁ, ପ୍ରାକୃତିକ ବାତାବରଣ ଏହାକୁ ଜୀବନ୍ତ ସତ୍ୟ ବୋଲି ଧାରଣା ସୃଷ୍ଟି କରେ। ଏହାକୁ ପଢ଼ିଲା ବେଳେ ମୋର ମନେ ପଡ଼ିଯାଉଛି ନାଟ୍ୟଶାସ୍ତ୍ର କଥା। ନାଟ୍ୟଶାସ୍ତ୍ରରେ ରସାସ୍ୱାଦନ ବିଷୟ ଯାହା କୁହାଯାଇଛି, ସେଇଠି ଯଥାର୍ଥ ରସାସ୍ୱାଦନ ହୁଏ ଯେଉଁଠି ନାଟକର ଚରିତ୍ର ଆଉ ଦର୍ଶକ ଉଭୟ ଏକାତ୍ମ ହୋଇଯାଆନ୍ତି, ଆଉ କେହି କାହାଠୁ ଭିନ୍ନ ବୋଲି ବୁଝିପାରନ୍ତିନି। ସେଇଠି ହେଉଛି ଯଥାର୍ଥ ରସାସ୍ୱାଦନ। ଏବଂ ସେଇ ଦୃଷ୍ଟିରୁ କେହି ଗୋପୀନାଥ ମହାନ୍ତିଙ୍କୁ ବିଚାର କରିନାହାନ୍ତି। ଗୋପୀନାଥ ନିଜ ସାହିତ୍ୟ ସାଧନ ବିଷୟରେ କହିଛନ୍ତି, ସାହିତ୍ୟ କ୍ଷେତ୍ର କହିଲେ ମୁଁ ବୁଝେ ମାଟି, ଆକାଶ, ସମୟ, ତହିଁରେ ନିହିତ ଚେତନା ଏକାଠି ହୋଇ ଗୋଟିଏ କ୍ଷେତ୍ର। ତହିଁରେ ବୌଦ୍ଧିକତା ଅପରିହାର୍ଯ୍ୟ, ବାସ୍ତବ ଚେତନା ଅପରିହାର୍ଯ୍ୟ। ଗୋପୀନାଥଙ୍କର ରଚନା ଶୈଳୀ ଆଲୋଚନା କରିବା ପୂର୍ବରୁ ତାଙ୍କର ଜୀବନ ଦୃଷ୍ଟିକି ସମାଲୋଚନା କିପରି ଦେଖିଛନ୍ତି କେତୋଟି ଉଦାହରଣ ଦେଲେ ସ୍ପଷ୍ଟ ହେବ। ଅମୃତ ମଣିଷ ଗୋପୀନାଥ ପ୍ରବନ୍ଧରେ ରତନ ଦାସ ଲେଖିଛନ୍ତି, ଗୋପୀନାଥ ଥିଲେ ଏକ ମାଟିଗୋଡ଼ି ଧରାର ମଣିଷଟିଏ। ସେ ସବୁ ଶ୍ରେଣୀ ଲୋକଙ୍କ ସହିତ ଆପଣାର ହୋଇ ମିଶି ପାରୁଥିଲେ। କଜଳପାତିଆ ଭଦ୍ରଲୋକଙ୍କ ତାଲିକା ତାଙ୍କର ନାମ ନଥିଲା। ସେ ସବୁ ଗୋଷ୍ଠୀକୁ ବାହାରି ଯାଇ ଲେଗୁଟି ପିନ୍ଧା, କନ୍ଧ, ସଉରା, ପରଜାଙ୍କ ସହିତ ମିଶୁଥିଲେ ଓ ଅନ୍ତରରେ ଭଲ ପାଉଥିଲେ। ସେମାନେ ମଧ୍ୟ ତାକୁ ଆପଣାଇ ନେଇଥିଲେ। ସେ ସରକାରୀ ହାକିମ ଥିଲେ ମଧ୍ୟ ହାକିମତି କ'ଣ ଜାଣିନଥିଲେ। ସାରା ଆଦିବାସୀ ସମାଜକୁ ନିଜର ବ୍ୟବହାରରେ ଲେଖନୀ ଜରିଆରେ ଜାଗ୍ରତ କରିବାରେ ତାଙ୍କର ଅବଦାନ ଥିଲା ଅତୁଳନୀୟ। ଗୋପୀନାଥ ସମ୍ପର୍କରେ ପ୍ରଫୁଲ୍ଲ କୁମାର ମହାନ୍ତି ଲେଖିଛନ୍ତି, ସେ ଏଠି ଅଛନ୍ତି। ଗୋପୀନାଥ ନଦୀ, ପାହାଡ଼, ଝରଣା, ଜଙ୍ଗଲ, ବନ, ଜଙ୍ଗଲ, ନାଚ ଗୀତ ସବୁ କୋରାପୁଟ ଜିଲ୍ଲା ମଧ୍ୟରେ ସୀମିତ ପରି ଜଣାଗଲେ ମଧ୍ୟ ଏହା ମଣିଷ ପ୍ରକୃତି, ମଣିଷ ବିଶ୍ୱଚେତନା ଓ ମଣିଷ ସଭ୍ୟତାର ସମ୍ପର୍କ ଅନୁସରଣରେ ମୌଳିକ ସତ୍ତା ଉପସ୍ଥାପନ କରନ୍ତି। ମାଟି ଓ ମଣିଷ, ସଂସ୍କୃତି ଓ ମଣିଷ, ଭାଗ୍ୟ ପୁରୁଷକାର ଏବଂ ମଣିଷ ସହିତ ମଣିଷର ସଭ୍ୟ ସମ୍ପର୍କର ପ୍ରତୀକ ସମୀକ୍ଷା କରନ୍ତି। प्राबंधिक समालोचक चित्तरंजन दास ताके गोपीनाथ महांती ओडिया गल्पकारिता प्रबंध कहते प्रत्येक गल्प उपन्यासर चरित्र मान काल्पनिक रुहति समस्त अंगेरी भाई मनीष जीवन था स्नेह साउंटार जीवन चित्तरंजन पुणी कहते उपन्यासकार गोपीनाथ महांती भितर सबुजा गुण रही सबुजाक शक्ति रही शाब्दिकतार छंदरे से पाठक गोटा सुधा बसाई नहीं जापारती रोमांटिक वर्णना छवि द्वारा लोमहर्षण घटाई पारती पुणी आदिवासी मान जीवन को नहीं जी जिते भ्रमी पारा और जी जिते रमी पारा प्राकृतिक सौंदर्य कि भितर अनुराग रहा तो क्या भर साधारणतः समालोचक मैंने विषय प्रसंग चरित्र समय अनुभव को धरी साहित्य आलोचना करते वक्तव्य उपस्थापन पद्धति आलोचना समय भाषा विचार आवश्यक भाव होता है किंतु भाषा संरचनार उपादान ध्वनि वर्ण अक्षर शब्द और अर्थ वाक्यर विश्लेषण साहित्य संरचना यथेष्ट नुहे पद्य और गद्य साहित्य विभिन्न भाव में विकसित है गद्य कविना निकषम वदंती एवं आवेगमय गद्यर संवेदनशीलता शैली विज्ञान अंग होगला ध्वनि विज्ञान रूप विज्ञान वाक्य विज्ञान अर्थ विज्ञान पर शैली विज्ञान भाषा विज्ञान एक परिपूरक अंग होगला साहित्यर भाषा विचार संलाप एक विशेष स्थान अधिकार कला फकीरमोहन दांडर भाषा और तुंडर भाषा व्यवहार कर साहित्य सृष्टि को नुआ दिगंत छुआईले गोपीनाथ सेपरी संगीताश्रयी आवेगमयी संवेदनशील ओडिया भाषा व्यवहार कर साहित्य सृष्टि को नुआ दिगंत छुआईले शैली विज्ञान आधुनिक पृथ्वी में अर्वाचित आरिस्टोटल संस्कृति में रस रीति अलंकार विषय आलोचना विषय जान थे तेणु पश्चिमी चिंतार प्रभावित आम आधुनिक बुद्धिजीवी मैंने भारतीय और पश्चिमी चिंताधारा शैली विचार समानता स्वीकार करते भारतीय चिंताधारा पश्चिमी चिंताधारा पर कहबार आश्चर्य देवार किसी नहीं सबुठ आनंदर कथा गवेषक विद्याधर राउत पीएचडी निबंध गोपीनाथ महांती उपन्यासर शैलीगत अध्ययन 2022 दिखाई ये सब विषय आलोकपात कर गोपीनाथ महांती शैलीगत अध्ययन परिसीमा विषय आलोचना कर से लिखिते गोपीनाथ महांती शैली गवेषणात्मक संदर्भ उपरोक्त आलोच्य शैली तत्व आधारित गवेषणा कार्य आरंभ पूर्व शैली संबंध में मजबूत धारणा नथिबारु 5टी उपन्यास को भित्ति कर उपन्यासक शैली अनुसंधान कर कल्पना ग्रहण कर मात्र गवेषणा मध्य डुब देवापर यह एक जटिल व्यापार बनला जड़े व्यक्तिर शैली सर्वत्र समान हो न पारे यह विषय भेदर पृथक होता है परदार शैली धारापाड़ीर शैली लय विलयर शैली केतबेले समान नहीं जदि तीनोजाक उपन्यासर स्रष्टा जड़े शैलीर परिसीमा अत्यंत व्यापक एणु जड़े औपन्यासिक शैली कहवार्थ जावतीय शैली वैशिष्ट्य समाहार को बुझाई है जार आलोचना असंभव व्यापार ये निर्दिष्ट केतक शैली वैशिष्ट्य को धरी गोटे मात्र रचना बा पाठ्य को ग्रहण कर शैली विचार सूक्ष्म और वैज्ञानिक हवा संभव ये धारणा बुद्धि जगत प्रवेश कलापर प्रस्तावित 5टी उपन्यास संकुचित कर 3टी उपन्यास पर गवेषणात्मक अध्ययन कर भाषा विज्ञान और शैली विज्ञान विषय विचार आलोचना ही कहले चले एपरिक प्राचीन शैली विचार एवं आधुनिक शैली विज्ञान मध्य परिवर्तन मार्गदर्शन विषय आलोचना नहीं एपरी अवस्था विषय उपस्थापन विषय मतानैक्य थे सुधा विद्याधर गोपीनाथ महांती उपन्यासर शैलीगत अध्ययन भविष्य गवेषणा दिग्बारिणी हेब सन्देह अवकाश नहीं एतिक गोपीनाथ महांती शैली विषय कहली आ विशेष किसी कहबार ना सरी आसला तथापि शेष गोटे कथा कह सी हूँ जे अनुवाद उपरे ध्यान आम यथेष्ट परिमाण देनु ओडिया भाषारू अन्य ओडिया भारतीय भाषा को अन्य भारतीय भाषा ओडिया को अनुवाद जी जरूरी विभिन्न वैदेशिक भाषा ओडिया को ओडिया विभिन्न वैदेशिक भाषा को अनुवाद हाँ से जरूरी ता नई साहित्य समालोचना एवं शैली विज्ञान विषय आलोचना अपूर्ण रही तेणु मु आशा करुच्ची जे साहित्य एकाडेमी एवं ए दिगरे पंथा ग्रहण करेंगे एवं आमे जो ये अच्छे आम ए विषय भाविबा चिंता करवा कारण तुम नहीं हो तो पिला माने आम ओडियार भविष्य तो तुम समस्त मुझे आशीर्वाद करुच्ची जे तुम समस्ते भल हो प्रथम तापर बड़ हो आगे बड़ हवा को चेष्टा कले भल हो पारे प्रथम भल हुआ तापर बड़ हुआ प्रथम पढ़ जिते अधिक पढ़ी पार से अधिक पढ़ तापर बड़ हुआ मनुष्य हुआ समस्त का आशीर्वाद नमस्कार।
Thank you, sir. The Honorable Vice Chancellor has arrived and is among us. I now humbly request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Sanjay Kumar Naik, sir, to address the gathering. Sir, please.
गुड आफ्टरनून गुड इवनिंग समस्त को नमस्कार। प्रथम कथा है माय सिंसियर एपोलॉजी जे मु आरंभ आसीपारे मु सार को कही गोटे मीटिंग 3 मास तले फिक्स होता जोटा कि मु चेयर करूँ तेणु बाध्य 3 घंटा काल से मीटिंग है मुझे चेष्टा करुँची आसीपारे सो से मत क्षमा देवे। रेस्पेक्टेड प्रोफेसर ओमकारनाथ महांती चेयरपर्सन गोपीनाथ महांती फाउंडेशन ट्रस्ट, प्रोफेसर ऋषिकेश मल्लिक ऑनर्ड स्पीकर, प्रोफेसर प्रफुल्ल कुमार महांती ऑनर्ड स्पीकर, सीताकांत सर डॉक्टर सीताकांत महापात्र जे कि चीफ स्पीकर, डॉक्टर देवी प्रसाद प्रसन्न पट्टनायक पद्मश्री देवी प्रसन्न पट्टनायक, मोर कलीग प्रोफेसर एंड हेड डॉक्टर संबित पाणिग्राही, जिते मोर कलीग्स मैंने ये बस स्टूडेंट्स मैंने बस एवं गेस्ट लेडीज एंड जेंटलमैन, मोर कुछ कहबार नहीं तो बड़ बड़ लोक एत कथा कही मु खाली ये कहि रेभेन्सा कहले गोपीनाथ महांती बुझाए कारण 6 वर्ष से ये पाठ पढ़ी 6 वर्ष आम भाग्यवान 6 years इन रेभेन्सा एवं बोधहुए तांकर गोटे इच्छा थिला जोड़ा कि मु जानी मु ओमकार सार साथ कथबार्ता करी सी ये पाठ भी पढ़े था प्रोफेसर भी हो पार था किंतु समाव डेस्टिन कुछ अलग थिला सी हेलेनी किंतु आमे तांको स्टूडेंट हिसाब से अध्यापक हिसाब से प्राध्यापक हिसाब से प्रोफेसर हिसाब से फोटोटा आम रखीचु आम इंग्लिश डिपार्टमेंट रे कहीं देखिले आमको बहुत इंस्पिरेशन मिले प्रेरणा मिले। आउ ओमकार सार को मुझे आगुरी जानी मैडम को मुझे जानी बहुत समय कथबार्ता हुए आमपाई एटा गोटे सुजोग जे तांकर आज ये आम रेभेन्सा आम करूँ एवं से मु ओमकार सार को कृतज्ञता ज्ञापन करुच्ची। सी जड़े माने विषय कहवाटा एत लोक एत कथा कही से ज्ञानपाठ पाई पद्मश्री भूषण हो सबू किंतु से जो लेखा लिखिं से जो गोटे बही मत देखते से दिन कैंपस 2 को मत ओमकार सार जाइए से जो चिट्ठी गुड़िक लिखिं से गुड़ा को मुझे कहली जदि आमर इंग्लिश डिपार्टमेंट ट्रांसलेट करें ताल आम गोटे बहुत बड़ ये हम मु कहि संबित सार को एवं तांका एंटायर टीम को केमिति सेटा को करने मुझे गोटे पिला माने जो मैंने PhD करुँच कि पोस्टडॉक करुँच से भी गोटे प्रेरणा हम। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर आपण को समस्ते ये आते समस्त को मोर नमस्कार प्रणाम जो मैंने ये आज आसी रेभेन्सा को एवं मोर विश्वास ये जो मीटिंगटा है ये जो ये गोटे इंस्पिरेशन हम आम स्टूडेंट मान फैकल्टी ता धन्यवाद थैंक यू।
Thank you, sir. Now I humbly request Dr. Khagendra Sethi to give the vote of thanks on behalf of the Department of English and Gopinath Mohanty Foundation Trust.
Om Sandhya Namaskar. Esteemed Chair, revered invited guests, my colleagues, students, ladies and gentlemen. Today is a great occasion and we have come to the far end of this session. At first, our special thanks goes to our Honorable Vice Chancellor for gracing this occasion, and I thank him for his consent in organizing this seminar. Thank you, sir, for your congenial presence and inspiring words. And the department will do the needful for your suggestions. Our thanks goes to the esteemed chair, Professor Devi Prasanna Patnaik, for chairing the entire session. And thank you for deliberating on the style and language of Gopinath Mohanty. We are extremely delighted to have the presence of Dr. Sitakanta Mahapantra. He discussed his personal life that he experienced with Gopinath Mohanty. And our students definitely got some enlightenment out of that. Thank you, sir. I'll thank Dr. Hrusikesh Mallik, President, Odia Sahitya Samaj, Sahitya Academy, and in his erudite lecture, he opened up a new vista of research when he compares Gopinath Mohanty with the French novelist Marcel Proust. So definitely it will add a new perspective on research on Gopinath Mohanty. Thank you, sir. And our thanks also goes to Professor P.C. Mohanty for his insightful lecture on the writings of Gopinath Mohanty. A seminar of this stature cannot be conducted without hard work and proper planning. And for that, I thank the leadership of our head of the Department of English, Professor Sambit Panigrahi. And I have the deep sense of appreciation for our colleagues, students, student volunteers, and support staff for the smooth functioning of this seminar. And my hearty vote of thanks to the media persons for having the entire coverage of the show. At last, I thank the distinguished guests on the dais for finding time from their extremely busy schedule and making this seminar a great success. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.